Of Monday Night Kerbalcast on our first pre-planned episode ever. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me as always, my co-host.
Caffeine Rage.
We have actually got some cool topics, at least we think they're cool, planned for discussion tonight. And as always, we're going to be playing a bit of KSP. To open us up for the week, how you been, Rach?
Oh, tired. You may notice a slight change in my microphone. I've been moving.
Yeah, you got out your good mic. Or got it back out, I should say. Or have you ever used it before on here?
I've used it every week. That really doesn't bode well for my previous quality.
It just sounds so different. Like I was saying before the show, like it really sounds different. I don't know if it's the room or if, giving it a good shake fixed things or made it better, but...
Scared it by putting it in a box for a few days. Sure. And having it rattle around with half the other stuff from my desk. Which I still need to bring out, by the way. I have stuff like my speakers still in my box and everything. My room basically has my desk and part of my bed, and that's about it right now.
Care to share any more of your moving saga? You told me earlier that was it not much or nothing was moved today?
Nothing was moved today. It's basically taken 2 to 3 times longer than it should have. Partly because I'm moving in December. Turns out, bad idea.
Oh, and why is that?
Because nobody wants to help in December.
I would help you in December. I told you earlier, if I could, I'd borrow my dad's truck and come help you move all your stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm like 6 or 8 hours away.
Yeah, I think closer to 6 hours. That's still a decent drive. If I had the time, I'd make a little weekend trip out of it, but alas, I have other responsibilities.
Oh, well, most of what's happened is basically, bad weather cost me a day moving just because it was raining too darn hard, Just don't want to move stuff out in the rain,
Yeah.
And also, the guy that's helping me move has been dragging his feet the entire way, and just been frustrating.
Right. What games have you been playing this week?
Pretty much anything that was installed on my computer, because I only got back online on Saturday, which is why this week's Kerbalcast doesn't have me featured in it at all, and they probably throw me on the card. I haven't actually listened to the Kerbalcast yet, but that's what I'm assuming.
You're not dead yet, though.
No, I'm not dead yet. I'm getting better.
So what games were installed on your PC?
Let's see. I actually went back and played Flat Out 2.
Flat Out 2. How old is that? That was a PS2 release, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had it installed for some reason. Don't ask me why. I have a lot of small games installed. Indie titles, older games like that. Mostly because it just doesn't take up that much memory. And I haven't gone through and cleaned out everything because I really haven't needed to yet.
Right.
Plus, it's fun to just go to install it and see, I'll play some of this.
I like doing that every once in a while. That's how my Steam Roulette series was born. It's like, yeah, I'll play this. Sure, why not?
Yeah, me hitting Steam Roulette would be very, very gaming whiplash. I have how many times games of you?
I've got 300 and... How many games? Like 300 and something. And you have more than me.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I have somewhere around 800. Well, let's go to my profile and see the Christmas themed profile that I set on December 1st.
You're so festive.
Hey, I have the festive lights out. Games listed as 864. And if I go to my library, I see 880.
Yeah, think I have 350 or 360. So you've got a few. You know, like 1 or 2 more than me. That's all.
Yeah, well, a lot of it's also just, I'm starting to pick up review copies of random things. Some good, some very bad, which some of it will be on my YouTube channel eventually. I'm taking a bit of a hiatus from that because, well, just needed to move. I'm probably going to be recording this week and restart next.
Yeah. Being a game reviewer is what got me a lot of my current library. I mean, I picked up plenty of games on Steam sales that I probably shouldn't have, but I got at least a good 100 to 150 titles when I was a game reviewer.
Yeah, I'm sitting on like 15 to 20 right now just from the YouTube channel.
Right.
And that's just literally just getting in one service and getting a few games from there.
Yeah, you're going to have to let me know what service that is. I'd like to get back into the review bandwagon or review game.
Yeah, you'd probably be a lot better at it than me. I'm pretty much just a Let's Player right now.
Well, I mean, all of my review content from back in the day was written review, which I suppose I could still do. I've got some schedule changes coming up next year that is going to give me more time to work on some written and scripted content, but...
Yeah, I did some games journalism as well way back several years ago on a very, very tiny site that I'm pretty sure is long since dead.
Rest in peace, tiny site. Rest in peace.
Yeah, well, at least I got paid for it, so it wasn't that bad.
That's true. That's one of my aims, is to make some extra moolah. Because, I mean, I love games, but I also like to get paid.
Yeah, well, maybe I've just been watching One Punch Man too much. I'm a YouTuber as a hobby.
I saw someone, we're getting way off track, and we're going to have to come back eventually, but I saw a video on YouTube this week where someone was playing Fallout 4 who really liked One Punch Man, so they designed a character that would kill anything in the game with one punch. It took them a really long time, but they got like, I forget what the thing is that's like the pneumatic punching arm, but they got that and they maxed it out, and they had maxed out their character's strength, and like were wearing clothes that gave bonuses to it, and they could walk up to like a super mutant legendary like leader and punch him in the face and kill him. One punch. It's great.
It's a fun anime.
I'm gonna have to watch it. It actually sounds really good. I like anime.
If you're a fan of the superhero genre, it makes fun of just about everything about it. Especially I should say, and also the shonen genre. The big epic boss fights. Dragon Ball Z-esque boss fights. As a matter of fact, one of the very first monsters you see in the series is basically Piccolo, only purple. And he's voiced by the voice actor that did Frieza.
Interesting, okay. So a purple Piccolo that sounds like Frieza.
Yeah.
I've got to watch One Punch Man. I've got a whole bunch of anime that I have been meaning to watch, but I think One Punch Man is going to the top of the list.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to just sit down one night and watch it together.
We could do that. We could pick a night. We could have anime night.
Yeah, I already have an anime night with one friend, so adding another one, not bad.
No. Another friend or another night to watch anime?
Both, but she's also watching One Punch Man and absolutely fell in love with it. And she's not a big fan of the superhero genre.
I love superheroes, man. Who doesn't love well, I guess she doesn't love superheroes, but other than this mystery woman, who doesn't love superheroes? All right, gotta reel it back in though. So games that I've been playing this week. Nope, I gotta let my dog through. I've been playing Space Engineers a lot.
There's a shock.
Mm-hmm.
Still having trouble with that?
No, we're not having trouble with it. they had an update last week that gave a performance boost. It fixed a lot of bugs, and I don't know what they did to it. It's actually not in the dev notes. All it said was streamlined performance, but it runs a little bit better. We're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 10 more frames a second on planets, which is where the biggest offender was to killing frame rate. Although that doesn't really matter all that much anymore. Spaceman and I got into space. So, I mean, we'll be going back to the planet to collect some resources and to play around, but now that we're in space, our next target's the moon. And I mean, we love the heck out of that game. Like, we're uber nerds, like, just playing this game every night, pretty much. Except for when one of us has to sleep because we're old and tired men. Other than that, I played a tiny bit of KSP this week, but not much, just a little bit to do this segment for Kerbalcast. And then played Warframe with you on, what night was it? Saturday night, or was it Friday night?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Saturday because I wasn't online at all Friday.
Right. So, yep, that's pretty much every game I've played this week.
Yeah, which, quick aside on Warframe, I actually kickstarted some of our research again.
Oh, yeah, look at you. I did a little bit while you were gone on moving, but only a couple of things.
Yeah, I come back and I start up something like 6 or 7 projects immediately.
My hero.
Yeah, which, oh, by the way, you don't know this already, but we have a new Warframe being researched.
Nice. Which one did you start researching?
Wutong.
Wutong. That's not how I pronounced it, but all right.
Well, I'm butchering the pronunciation, most likely.
I could be completely wrong as well. So.
The Monkey God.
The Golden Monkey. Actually, that reminds me, I played a lot of Hearthstone this week. I've started up an actual Hearthstone Let's Play series with me doing commentary instead of just those being random filler videos when I need a video on my channel and I haven't done one in a few days. Love me some Hearthstone.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Hearthstone. I'm just so far behind on cards that I don't think it's worth me playing anymore.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, unless you've already been playing, it's really hard to get into it without spending money.
Yeah, there's just so much power creep, especially with the newer stuff.
Yep. But I've been playing almost since it launched, so I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I played during the beta, but the thing is, I stopped playing for a while, and that just gets you behind.
Yeah. Alright, so let's take a look at our topic list this week. First thing after us doing our introductions, KSP Dev Notes. You did not do a squad report because, as you said, you were moving. Anything that's even halfway interesting to talk about in the Dev Notes this week? It's another slow week.
Honestly, not much. I would have really been struggling with the squad report had I been doing it because a good chunk of the Dev Notes was just talking about this forum migration that they did last week, was it? Or week before?
Yeah, it's been going on for a couple of weeks now.
Well, they finally got around to actually doing it, and a good chunk was the breakdown of what happened and why it took so long and why they were doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
Which mostly just comes down to the software wasn't being updated for a couple years and it was having security issues.
Yeah, they specifically used the word insecure instead of unsecure or not secure. I was reading that, I made a joke in my head like, oh, well, if they're insecure, they should just go see a therapist. That'd fix their problem.
You're just wanting all those Steam training cards.
Yeah. So?
And outside of that, they talked about just putting more polish on the 1.1 update because their internal deadline of Christmas is no longer being set.
Yep, which, I mean, we talked about that last week, but...
Yeah, big surprise there.
He said sarcastically.
Wait, did I come off as sarcastic? I mean, I didn't mean to.
I don't believe you for 1 second. Anything else in the dev notes? I mean, I glanced at them, but they were talking about more
Not really.
optimization things and, dev stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty much just dev stuff, optimization, and the forums, and that was about it. Oh, and that Dr. Turkey has been doing more meetings than Max did. Which honestly hope that his producing skills a lot is the reason why they had him, because not the greatest of squad casts. It's probably a bit mean to pick on Dr. Turkey, but...
Wait, he's doing more meetings?
Yeah, some sort of weekly meetings. They mentioned it briefly.
They weren't doing weekly meetings before? I thought all companies did weekly meetings. Every company I've worked for...
Or I could have just misread it, or it's a different type of meeting that he's changed the focus of it.
It's interesting. Every company I've ever worked for has had like a weekly meeting, so... I mean, I wouldn't, put it past them to not be having weekly meetings. Squad does some interesting things that aren't like other companies, but I don't know, it just seems weird to me.
Well, I think it partially comes from the fact that Squad wasn't originally a software developer; they were a marketing company.
That's true. That'd be interesting if Dr. Turkey whips Squad more up into a game development company. I'm not sure if that would be a better thing or a worse thing.
I think it depends on what type of game company we're talking about. Are we talking about CD Projekt Red, Valve, or EA?
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, back in the day, EA wasn't such a bad company.
Yeah, I shared a extra credits episode with several people in the Kerbalcast community talking about an open letter to EA. This was from several years ago, but still very applicable.
Well. Oh, yeah. Super applicable. Just the name of the game has changed.
Yeah, I couldn't help but get very, very angry at about the 6-minute mark where they were talking about they were reading a letter from a very old PC magazine. I can't remember what one they said specifically, but they were talking about what their company is and their goals. And then on the video, they were showing some of the, well, at the time, the newest advertisements from EA, the stuff from Dante's Inferno, and how Space. Yeah, and Dead Space as well. It was Dead Space 2, I believe.
Yeah.
And just the marketing from that and how they've kind of strayed from the path of what they were. Yeah. And it's just very disheartening.
Well...
But again, I already know about this because back in the day, I was a big fan of Maxis.
Oh, I loved Maxis.
Yeah, right up until, let's see, where did my heart break for Maxis? Oh, yeah, Spore.
Actually, I really like Spore. I know it had a lot of complaints. It wasn't the best game, but I really liked Spore.
Oh, the problem with Spore, I've said this before, and I've said it, and I'll say it again, was that it wasn't the game that was promised by a long shot.
Yeah.
Although, so if you look at anything from the pre-release stuff for Spore and compare it to what came out, it's two completely different games.
Yeah. I was, though, a lot younger when Spore came out. I mean, I'm still a young guy, but I was, what was I? A teenager? An early age teenager when Spore came out? So, like, I didn't care about any of that. I was like, oh, this is a cool computer game where I can make worms with boobs.
Well, you weren't making giant dicks with legs?
Well, maybe I did some of that, too. You know, just kid stuff. Nothing to see here. Move along.
Yeah, Spore ended up being more of a 3D modeling program with some animation built in than a game to me. Which is, if that's what you're looking for, you know, it's not bad, but that's not what I was looking for.
Right. So, I saw an article today by the Washington Post that was talking about a lot of the, excuse me, the best games of the year and how that they had contributed to making people's dreams come true. Kerbal Space Program was the number 2 game on the list because it made space exploration accessible to a generation, like a new generation. Because in the past, we had the space race, and then we had the shuttle program and the International Space Station. And even though those things, the latter, I should say, still exist, it's kind of a been there, done that sort of thing. What are kids going to care about? Space in the future. And that's Kerbal Space Program. I mean, we've been saying that in the community for forever, but...
Yeah, the Kerbal Space Program is an amazing educational tool.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely shouldn't be the only tool for teaching about space mechanics, orbital mechanics, how to get to space, what's required once you're there, but it's a good starting point.
Absolutely. I mean, I've learned more about space from KSP than I did in any of my science classes. Granted, I wasn't, going to be an
rocket surgeon,
or an astronomer or a rocket surgeon, or a couple of other fields that might have to deal with it, such as aerospace engineering or something like that. But still, they just don't teach very much science or space science in science classes, even all the way up through college. So,
the only thing that I could remember science-wise when it comes to space that was taught in my high school was at one point we had to design a biosphere that would be sustainable on another planet. And that was about it.
That's actually pretty cool. That's way better than my science class ever did. The closest that I got to it was actually in history, U.S. history. And surprisingly, it was a very small blip in the Kennedy era or the Cold War era discussion in class. It's like, yeah, we beat the Soviets to the moon, and we had the first shuttle program. It's like, that's it. 2 or 3 pages in a history textbook. And space exploration is probably the last key to ensuring that humanity becomes a species that survives, maybe not eternally, but outlives our planet. I'm really big on that sort of stuff,
Yeah, was it Carl Sagan that said that the Earth is the cradle of humanity, but eventually you do have to leave the cradle? I'm paraphrasing heavily, but...
That might have been Carl Sagan. I'm not 100% sure. Suddenly the names of great scientists are leaving me, and I'm going to sound foolish, but who is the older fellow who is confined to his chair now?
Stephen Hawking?
Stephen Hawking. There we go. And I'm sure I sound like a moron, but just suddenly it left me. Stephen Hawking said something along those lines as well.
Yeah, I may be thinking Stephen Hawking on that. Maybe a Stephen Hawking thing, but there's so many great minds, and they kind of, I hate to say, they kind of blur together eventually.
Yeah, they do. I mean, just look at how many quotes are misattributed to Einstein on the internet. Yeah. No, Stephen Hawking has this bit that, well, I mean, it's not like a bit that he does, but it's a thing that he said, and I'm paraphrasing a much larger discussion, but basically he talks about how that humanity has got maybe another 2 centuries on the planet Earth, and if we haven't left Earth by then...
Okay, what I said was actually a Hawking quote.
Okay.
The Earth is the cradle of humankind. One cannot live in the cradle forever.
Yeah. So, I hope that things like Kerbal Space Program and whatever comes after Kerbal Space Program raises a generation that's interested in space again. Because, I mean, space was not a big deal when I grew up. I mean, I'm 25. Both of my parents were around for the space race and the shuttle program, the building of the ISS. It was never talked about in my house, ever. outside of, oh, what's this thing about space that was in my textbook or whatever. I don't think I have what it takes to be an astronaut anyway, so I don't think that I would have wound up an astronaut if it had been talked about more. But there's plenty of kids out there that could be. Feeling all.
Which I'm still searching this quote, seeing how far down the rabbit hole it goes. It seems like it was said by Stephen Hawking at one point, but it was originally from a Russian rocket scientist, which I'm just going to butcher his name, Konstantin Trevelovsky.
Okay.
Which there's a couple translations of it. The one that I said, but the more literal translation is that a planet is the cradle of the mind, but one cannot live in a cradle forever. But it's usually cited as the Earth is the cradle of humanity, but one cannot live in a cradle forever.
Right.
I'm trying to get that right,
Yeah. I need to go check and see what science I've got. We're sitting here talking, and I'm like getting lost in what it is that I'm doing. Yeah. I listen to to Star Talk Radio, which is Neil deGrasse Tyson's podcast.
Yeah, I listen to that occasionally. Sometimes the topic isn't interesting to me, and I just skip it.
I listen to it fairly regularly, not every week. I do occasionally skip topics that are of no interest to me, but they've had several episodes where that they talk about this. Humanity needs to leave Earth and go and resume exploring the solar system and then eventually the greater galaxy and universe.
Well, I'm going to get a little politically incorrect, but
I wouldn't expect anything different from you.
I'm willing to bet if they found oil on Mars, we would have been on Mars already.
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised if there was. I wouldn't be surprised if there was oil on Mars. There we go.
Well, doesn't that require, life? And depending on how far along Mars was when it became a pretty much dead ball of rust, that's very, 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 very unlikely.
What in the world is going on here? I mean, that's true. That I'm stuck. There we go. Nope, I'm still stuck. I can't get out of this menu.
It's telling you that you need to understand your science.
Well, I know that, you are right. You need some sort of life to decompose and turn it into oil, but I mean, there's water on Mars. There's evidence of water on Mars. There could be microscopic life on Mars.
Let me know when there's potatoes on Mars.
There's potatoes on Mars. But there could be evidence of microscopic life that existed on Mars. I mean, there probably wouldn't be as much oil as on the Earth, but
I was joking about the whole oil thing, but there are other forms of energy that you could use.
That's true. There are. All right, I think I'm gonna have to force close the game and restart, which is gonna cause a short lapse in the stream because I can't get out of this menu.
Nice job breaking it.
I just wanted to go see what science I had done on Kerbin before I launched another random mission. Yeah, I'm going to have to force close the game, so we will be back momentarily. There we go, and we're back. Yeah, I have no idea what happened. I just went to go check on my science, and I got stuck in that menu.
Weird.
Oh well. Anyways, Do you watch the show Adam Ruins Everything?
No, I don't.
Oh, you should. I think you'd like it. The premise of the show is that Adam Conover from College Humor takes things in our culture, um, like stereotypes or beliefs that are centered around things like engagement and marriage and giving, and how we have all these false concepts about how things work, and he tells you the truth about them. He has a research team for the show, that they go and they research different things, and they have all their sources cited in the show and then in more detail on their website. And he basically tells you the truth about misconceptions that we have about everyday life. And in their most recent episode, it came out last week, it was called Adam Ruins Summer Fun. But part of it, they were talking about video games and how that video games are actually a gender-neutral activity, and it's media and marketing that have marketed them to boys for so long. And Kerbal Space Program was a game that showed up as a game that was for all ages and genders and could be used as a teaching tool, as well as something that kids and adults alike could enjoy. Like, it was really brief. It was only on there for like 15, 20 seconds. But I was still really excited that Kerbal Space Program was on one thing that I enjoy was on another thing that I enjoy. I was pretty happy.
Yeah, Kerbal Space Program pops up in some weird places at times.
What's the weirdest place you've seen Kerbal Space Program pop up then?
I saw a recording of Kerbal Space Program used as an example of what the I'm trying to think of the name from the SpaceX, what they're calling the bottom stage that's supposed to land on a barge. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Scott Manley did that as like a random challenge.
Yeah, they did a recording. They used a recording of that. It was on some Canadian news program that I saw linked on the Kerbal Space Program subreddit. And to make it even better, they recorded it with an unregistered version of Bandicam. So they had the Bandicam thing at the top.
Oh my gosh. That's so bad.
It was so hilarious. But that's definitely the weird. That's definitely the weirdest place I've seen Kerbal Space Program. I mean, it was like the lowest tier YouTube channel, only on a national news network.
That's really good, actually. Yeah, that's better than what I was gonna say. When I've seen YouTube, I have seen KSP on a couple of weird YouTube channels. You know who Dodger is?
Yeah, she's with the Polaris group, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. She's on the Co-optional podcast, which I know you said that you don't listen to, but...
well, I listen to it a little bit, but I don't sit down or watch it or listen to the full thing. I'll catch a little bit here and there.
Yeah, and then she streams all the time what she calls anime bullshit. But anyways, when 1.0 came out, she got a review copy or a stream copy or something. And so she played for like an hour on one of her streams.
Oh boy.
It was awful. She was so bad. I mean, it was hilarious. Like, she, was taking the piss out of herself and, just having a good time with it. But
one thing I regret is that Total Biscuit didn't do a review of it when it launched.
Oh, that would have been great.
That would have been hilarious.
He has talked about it though with high praise before. Like, every time it shows up.
Yeah, he has.
It showed up several times on his little Steam deals that he does when they have the big sales. It showed up a few times on those as a game he recommends to people.
Yeah, but unfortunately, he didn't do a full review of it, which would have been just hilarious.
Yeah.
Which is probably why he didn't do it, because he likes to have some sort of quality.
Yeah. I feel like he's smart enough to play it, though. Like, I feel like he's smart enough to learn.
Yeah, but the thing is that Kerbal Space Program, it requires a lot of time to really get the basics down.
That's true. It's a lot like an MMO or a really complex RPG, and the amount of time you have to put into it to learn it.
Yeah, and it may have launched alongside another RPG or something that was a little bit more high profile. I'd have to actually go back and look on that one.
Yeah, I don't know about about that. And then the other weird place that I saw KSP once was Jim Sterling talked about it as an example of games that did early access well. And just like Jim Sterling, I love Jim Sterling. I know that you don't like him. We've talked about that before, but it's just
it's more of his character than what he says.
Yeah, I love the Jim Inquisition, but I love that that style of satire and critique. I'm a very abrasive person myself. But anyways, it just showed up there, and he was like, talking seriously about it as a game that did well, in showing how a Kickstarter game, or not a Kickstarter game, but
early access.
An early access game, thank you, could perform well and do all the right things. I was like, oh, that's really cool. This showed up with Jim Sterling.
Yeah, well, that's Kerbal Space Program is a game I've said myself is one of the few examples of early access done really well. One of the other ones, just to get slightly off topic, is actually Prison Architect.
I still have never played Prison Architect, but I have heard that it was a really good early access title.
Well, I would say that they did a little bit better than Squad in that they did monthly updates and were a little bit more communicative, at least for a longer period of time. Squad is kind of built up to the point where they're communicating every week, but for a while they really weren't,
right.
From what I could recall, at least.
Right.
But it's two very different games, though. So
at some point, we should really talk about early access.
Yeah.
That's not on our topic list for this week. Maybe next week.
Yeah, I have some interesting thoughts on early access, particularly from a certain developer, which we will be touching on this week.
Well, are you ready to move into our first non-KSP discussion?
Sure. We actually had another person show up on the stream. We're up to 3.
Aw, yeah.
Hello, number 3. I don't know. They haven't said anything in chat. You're the one that's able to just sit there and look.
Well, I can hit Control Tab, but I'm flying a ship right now, so Control would not be beneficial to my flight. I'll check in a minute.
But it'd be beneficial to the comedy.
It's a guest. Because it's you, and then I never count on the viewer list, and then Spaceman. So there's 2 of our 3.
Hello, guest. How are you? I'm scaring them off. Yeah, I scared them off.
Oh, well.
I blame Biff.
He's not even here. How can you blame Biff?
Very easily. I just did.
Fair enough. So, episodic gaming. How do you feel about episodic gaming, Rage?
It really, really depends on the developer for it. Okay. Because there's been... I could use the same developer for both a good example of episodic gaming and a bad one.
Okay. Tell me how Telltale is a good example and a bad example.
Get out of my head.
I mean, you and I are, I think, going the same direction on this, but I asked you first, so go ahead.
Some of the early Telltale stuff where they were actually able to stick to a schedule and have it be a fairly tight schedule where it was a month or 2 for each episode. Didn't mind episodic gaming all that much, even though Telltale games, they like to push the whole idea of that your choices matter in the overall story when they really don't. I mean, let's be honest here.
Right.
But lately, Telltale has fallen into the whole thing of just... They fall into the Valve problem where the episodes are getting further and further apart. I mean, is the second episode of King's Quest even out? And it's been how long now?
Yeah, King's Quest isn't... It's been a while since the first episode came out. Now, with the Minecraft game, though, they're doing a lot better job of keeping things on a tight schedule.
Yeah, but that's also a kind of a bad example because the episodes are extremely short from what I've heard. I actually haven't played it myself. Yes, I'm a YouTuber and I haven't done Minecraft on my channel. Oh no, what am I doing? Oh wait, Binding of Isaac instead.
Yeah, I haven't checked out the new Minecraft game either. Although it's the one that I'm most interested in checking out because the episodes are coming out quickly. See, that's my problem. In theory, episodic gaming is perfect and amazing and lovely and wonderful because as a parent, without me being well, that was a failed design. The whole thing's going to blow up. As a parent, as I was saying, without me doing what I do and staying up to crazy, ridiculous, stupid late hours, I can.
Are you saying I'm a bad influence?
No. You're just a bad person.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna go say it in the corner now.
I love you. I didn't mean it.
I'm not convinced of that.
Anyways, we're just, this is what we do. I abuse you. But anyways, I would only get 2 to 3 hours a day max to play games. Like, if everything goes my way, if I don't have anything else that I have to take care of, then that's how much time I would get to play. And that's how long most of these episodes take, is between 2 and 3 hours. So in theory, it's the perfect type of game for a person like me, which is a majority of people, But the problem is they take months to come out most of the time. If there was a new episode that came out every 3 to 4 weeks, then you could have, a few episodic games, just like you have TV shows, and you could play one every week or two. But instead, they come out randomly whenever they want to. A couple months, maybe if you're lucky. Some of them take a lot longer than that.
Well, an example of this is actually a game that I may do on my channel, I'm not sure, called Wild Season. It's basically a Harvest Moon type game. With a bit more emphasis on the story. So it's more of a farming RPG than Harvest Moon was.
Right.
And they decided that in order to get the game out and actually get some revenue back, they are just going to break up the story into an episode and make it episodic. But they're doing a few odd things with it. One that is kind of strange is that the first episode costs something like 3 or 4 times as much as the other episodes. And their reasoning for this is that each episode is going to have additional features, so it's going to be cheaper, and you have to have all the episodes in order to play it.
It's interesting. I like, if my memory serves me correctly, Life is Strange did the opposite of that. The first one was cheaper, and then the rest of them were more expensive, unless you bought the whole thing at once. And that was like, get hooked on the first episode for a few bucks, your channel, and then you'll stick around for the rest of them.
Look, it's our third chair. Your uncle was here.
Good morning.
Howdy.
Hello, Bob.
What's cracking, gentlemen?
We're talking about episodic games.
We are.
Ah, very good. I must admit, I have never actually played them.
Why not?
Good question.
Is this about design or just happenstance? Because I will say that
I'm going to go for happenstance.
Yeah, episodic games, outside of a few examples, like Half-Life or Wild Season, which I was talking about earlier, are typically in the point-and-click genre, or sort of like the interactive story genre, which is this weird amalgamation or weird offshoot of the point-and-click genre.
Yeah, what I like to now call the Telltale genre.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I don't even really consider Half-Life to be episodic.
It reminds me.
The episodes are too big and too infrequent.
Are you still hoping that there's going to be a Half-Life 3?
Oh, there will be.
Oh, well, there was
I have no expectations for when.
This isn't on our topics, but I saw earlier today that there was a leak from the Steam database, and a lot of games were listed on it. Several from the PlayStation 3, like Journey and that sort of thing. But one of them on the list was Half-Life 3. of course, that does mean Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Absolutely. Of course. I think at this point that two things about Half-Life 3. One, Valve likes to dangle it in front of our face as like some kind of a sick joke, just to screw with people. And two, the only time we're ever going to see Half-Life 3 is way down the line when Valve is almost like they're on their last leg and they're gasping at straws, and it's like, all right, now's the time for Half-Life 3.
I think we're not going to see Half-Life 3 until a major overhaul on their engine for Source, which maybe Source 2 is that. I'm not actually certain on that.
Well, I mean, that engine is how old now? Over a decade.
Probably about 12 or 13 years, because it came out with, wasn't Half-Life 2 the first game to use it?
Half-Life 2 episode 1. Yeah. So.
No, I'm actually Half-Life 2 because you just named a game that was like a year or two after Half-Life 2.
Yeah, good point. Sorry.
Trying to be a smartass.
I was still thinking about the whole episodic gaming thing. What are some episodic games you've played, Rage?
Oh, let's see. I've played the Sam & Max series. I should say the Telltale Sam & Max.
Right.
Back to the Future, also from Telltale. That was actually a pretty good one if you're a fan of the movie. They made a huge sequel hook that I don't think they'll ever use, though. Which is a little unfortunate. Of course, Half-Life 2. I've never actually completed Episode 2 because I don't want to be on that cliffhanger, even though I know what happens.
Right. I genuinely don't consider the Half-Life games episodic. I know that they're called, there's Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and Episode 2, but I don't really feel like those are episodic.
Yeah,
I don't know.
they're
just
the
more like
outliners.
true sequels.
Yeah, I don't consider them episodic.
Whoops.
See, when you say episodic, I think like The Walking Dead, Wolf Amongst Us, those kind of like very storyline based, pay a couple of dollars, get the next chapter kind of games.
Right, and those are the games that I've played. I've played Wolf Among Us, The Walking Dead, all of The Walking Dead episodic ones.
I played up to, I think, Episode 4 of Walking Dead, and I just kind of lost interest in it. Maybe it's just I'm not a fan of the genre.
Yeah, I never got into it.
I've played Game of Thrones, the episodic one that Telltale did, and then I've got...
Any good?
Do you like the show?
Yes.
Then you'll like the game. It's basically the show, except you get to screw up and get yourself killed.
Are there tits?
No. There are
That's not true to the show then.
Yeah, I thought you said it was like the show.
There is a lot of death and scary political interaction.
Yeah, but no tits.
If that's
Which was pretty much, that was the hook in the show for the first few episodes. Allow us to show you an abundance of breasts while we get you interested in politics.
And also gratuitous murder. There's a lot of boobs, and I was trying to think of a word that starts, or a murder synonym that starts with B, but I didn't get one. So
boobs and beheadings.
That's a good one. I was going to say memories
brutality
and murders. But anyways, so I played the Game of Thrones Telltale game, and I've got Tales from the Borderlands. I have not played it yet. Since the last episode recently came out. And then I've got Life is Strange to play. Gonna be putting that. I'm gonna do full play and put that on my channel.
Very nice.
I think that's all the episodic games I've played. King's Quest is on my list, like the newer episodic games, I should say.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through my list. Depending on how you pick episodic, because episodic could really mean a trilogy that's broken up as well. If you used a very, very loose term of episodic, then The Adventures of Van Helsing, The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing could be considered episodic.
Or if
Even though
you
that's
really want
even though that is technically a trilogy instead of episodes.
So if you really want to get generous, then the Command and Conquer series, where all the red alerts just different episodes.
Okay, fine. The Grand
Except
Theft Auto
for 4.
series.
Yeah. Although the story didn't really follow on from Grand Theft Auto, there was a very hilarious, very camp, continuous story in the Red Alert games.
I love the Red Alert games.
Oh, so good. I picked up on sale the other day the 10-year collection again in Origin, and I've been playing like Red Alert 2 and Tiberium Sun. I regret nothing. They are fantastic.
Yeah, I don't blame you for that. So, Rage, the main reason we wanted to talk about our feelings on episodic games is you showed me a news article today where Final Fantasy VII might be episodic.
Yeah, which is just ridiculous. An RPG like that split up into episodes, they're just killing their sales, or their initial sales, I should say.
I don't think so, because it's Final Fantasy VII. As much as I think that this is a crappy, stupid, non-consumer friendly decision.
Yeah, it's a money grab, let's be honest.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII is a money grab. And they're going to get away with it because it's Final Fantasy VII. Which is a load of garbage, but, I mean, that's just the way that it works most of the time, sadly.
So are they raising finance to start the remake and then selling episodes to keep adding in the storyline that was in the original game? Or is there just not that much info out yet?
There's really hardly any info. It's basically, they're just saying that, they're not even saying it's episodic. They're saying it's part of a series or multi-part. I'm trying to remember the terminology that they used exactly. It was, they didn't say actually episodic.
No, they did not. Although people are going crazy. Since you showed me that article a few hours ago, I've since seen 4 news articles that are calling them all sorts of very, very unkind names for turning Final Fantasy VII into an episodic game. And I'm thinking, did you even read the news article? But I mean, really, they're just going for sensationalist views. Gotta get them clicks.
Yeah. That's a topic for another day. Clickbait journalism or games journalism.
Put it on the list.
Yep.
Which, if you think about it, I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit.
For Final Fantasy VII or clickbait journalism?
There's no devil's advocate for clickbait journalism. It could burn in hell for all I care.
Okay. Just making sure what we're talking about here.
If you look at Final Fantasy VII, there are very clear breaks in the original game. And that is where you swap discs. So, if they have it where it's a 4-part game and use those original breaks in the story, as long as we're not looking at 6 months to a year in between episodes, it could work, but it also depends on just how much they're charging for this as well.
I actually had that exact same idea. At first I was really appalled, why in the world, other than just money, would they turn one of the most beloved games of all time into an episodic adventure? It makes no sense. They're going to ruin it, people will be upset. But then I thought, well, the game naturally breaks in order for you to change discs. You always wind up at little crossroads or breakpoints or whatever. And it's okay, now pull out your disc and put in a new one. And I thought, well, if they base the episodes around that, and for example, over the course of a year, every quarter release a portion as it gets finished, then that might make sense. I don't think I'd be super happy, and I'd still probably wait for the entire release.
Game of the Year edition or whatever they're going to call it.
Yeah, that's another thing. How much are they going to charge for these portions? If the total adds up to, $60 or whatever, that's fine. But if they charge $60 an episode,
not a chance.
I've got Final Fantasy VII on my PC already. I've got the Square Enix re-release that came out a few years ago that they touched it up and made it run on modern systems. I paid $13
I have Final
for
Fantasy.
That.
I have Final Fantasy on my PlayStation.
Yeah, I don't have a PlayStation anymore, so I can't do that. And then I've got Final Fantasy VIII on Steam. I just go play that instead. I'm a Final Fantasy VIII fan.
Yeah, I will say that. Did you see the trailer for Final Fantasy VII?
The new one that was at E3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look very pretty, which makes me worry just how long it's going to take in between episodes or parts or whatever they end up eventually calling the different parts.
I mean, they're rebuilding the game from the ground up. So it will probably take a while to develop. And that's being generous with my wording.
But they have like the ultimate storyboard there. Like they have all the dialogue written, or at least most of it. The character design is done. The level design, world building is done.
Actually, it looks like they're redoing some of the level design based on the trailer.
I'd be okay with that.
It's not the isometric style where, and I'm probably using the wrong term for that, but you know, where you're looking down on the character and moving the character around the world like that. Instead, I think they're reusing the Final Fantasy 15 engine, where it's third person and you're following the character behind, your typical third person perspective. And
yeah,
they're
well, it makes
rebuilding
sense
the
that they
game.
use.
And they're rebuilding the game world to make use of that. The trailer showed, like climbing under rubble instead of, just the character disappearing and reappearing somewhere else. And squeezing against a wall and that sort of thing. And I do have to wonder, and I know I'm getting very, very off topic here, how are they going to handle the whorehouse section of Final Fantasy? Because today's politics, they are getting very, very politically correct. And would they allow Cloud to cross-dress these days?
That is one of my favorite parts of the game. I just
love
how they just
imagine
breeze
them?
over it. It's like, oh, I'm dressing in women's clothing. Okay.
Yeah, but the backlash if they, quote unquote, deliberately censored that part would be huge because everyone knows about it and would be expecting it.
There's. Let's be honest. There's going to be backlash either way. There's going to be people that are going to be so butthurt that Cloud cross-dresses to get into a whorehouse to save his girlfriend, or depending on how you view the relationship between him and Aerith, or Eris, depending on your translation. And and on the flip side of that, if they do an alternate route and have him just break in and fight his way through, there's going to be backlash either way. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I'd rather offend the people who
actually
were
buy the
glad
game.
it was taken out. Like, if people were uncomfortable with having their imaginary video game character cross-dress briefly to rescue his girlfriend, like, those people deserve to be annoyed.
I agree. Although the thing is would they be brave enough to do that? People are so concerned over backlash now. I mean, maybe they always have been, but I just feel like it happens all the time now.
One of the latest Darrow Live Extreme Volleyballs isn't getting ported to the West because of it.
I saw that.
No, I'm
this
serious.
Week. No, yeah, I saw that this week. I know what you're talking about. Well, let's say that that's what they said, or is that what they said, or is that what everyone is thinking about or is thinking?
No, they literally said that that's the reason why they aren't porting it to the West or sending it out to the West. You could still import it, and it's translated into English. But the thing is that they said that they weren't going to sell it in the West because of potential backlash and cutting off their biggest market to do so.
I don't think that the West is their biggest market for that game. I think that Japan is their biggest market for that game.
Actually, there was sales numbers for the previous one, and it was North America.
Really?
By a fairly decent margin.
Wow, I'm actually extremely surprised by that. Well, I guess we like babes in bikinis playing volleyball.
I'd say that's largely universal.
USA. Sorry. I let my nationalistic pride get the best of me there for a moment.
Was that the only reason to watch the Summer Olympics?
Yep, that's the only reason. That's it. No others.
Yeah, you want a reason to watch the Summer Olympics. Compare the difference between like the women's beach volleyball team uniform and the men's. It's like, yep, spectator sport much.
All right, what's everybody's favorite Final Fantasy game here?
Final Fantasy 9.
Good choice.
Man, I really haven't played much more than like 7, to be honest, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and then haven't really touched the series since, due to not being a console kind of guy.
My favorite Final Fantasy game is Final Fantasy VIII. I've went back and I've played Final Fantasy 7 and 8, and aside from a few differences, they're very similar games. I think it's just I played 8 first, and so that's what my impression of Final Fantasy was.
See, I played Final Fantasy 7 first, and I didn't care for 8, mostly because of the magic system. It felt like it punished you for using the magic way too much. Even though it does make sense in the game world, you know?
Yeah, that's a fair criticism.
But I like the job system of Final Fantasy 9 a bit more than what Final Fantasy 7 had with the materia.
I also really like Final Fantasy X. I know a lot of people dislike it, but I like it a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, 10 copped a lot of flack on launch, didn't it?
Yeah.
Mostly for the voice acting. I mean, the Titus laugh scene.
I was going to say, you're about to say the Titus laugh scene, I know it.
Yeah, the Titus laugh scene is so infamous for Final Fantasy.
That was pretty bad.
Even though it supposedly was supposed to be bad, they made it so much worse.
Now, complete topic change for a second, because I'm watching the rocket construction here.
Right.
Have you guys seen there's a mod around that will auto-snap your struts to, like, center, thirds and quarters of parts? So you can have perfectly aligned struts now?
Yeah, I saw it and never got it to work right for me.
I've seen it, but I've never tried it.
Yeah, I haven't tried it. The trailer made it look very good, though.
What I really liked about it, I think it may have been the same mod or it may have been a different one, was there was one that did it for fuel lines.
That would also be handy. I think it's not so much a problem now, but like around 0.24-ish, if you had your struts at an angle like you've got now, it would induce like enough torque to really make your rocket spin. Like you get aerodynamic forces off funny angled struts.
That's interesting. Even Ferrum doesn't do that. Oh.
Yeah, well, I don't think it should. They're very small parts.
Any other thoughts on Final Fantasy VII episodicness?
I think it's a little bit too early to get outraged. But that's really just the nature of games journalism, is that they just need to latch onto something like that.
Outrage culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can't have a neutral opinion. It's always, this is amazing or this is terrible.
Yeah, which...
Hey, look, there's a thing.
Yeah, which was really why we've seen so much score creep when it comes to reviews.
All right, I have to have this conversation now. I actually had it on the topic list for a future topic, but since you mentioned it, review scores. How do you feel about the review score system? Okay, let me make this a little more specific first. How do you feel about giving a game a number?
When I was doing game reviews, professionally, I did not use review scores at all.
Okay, why?
Because I didn't like the idea of saying that this game is an 8 and having it be directly equatable to another game that I would give an 8. Instead, I would do basically a too long didn't read version of it at the end, my last paragraph, going over the highlights and the problems of the game, just sort of how a lot of reviewers do the bullet points at the end, only I would have it as just a single paragraph as sort of my closing.
Yep.
And if I had to do some sort of score, it would be more of try it, wait, try it out like a demo, wait, or just avoid it. That sort of general thing instead of a number, which really screws the Metacritic.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Whenever I wrote game reviews professionally, I also did not use a review score. I refused. I was the best writer that they had, so I could get away with it. And I also wrote a little conclusion paragraph at the end of everything that was a TLDR about what all the problems and good points were. And then I would recommend, I had 3 ratings, buy regardless, like a game that I thought everybody would enjoy. Buy if it's for you, which would be, if you like this genre or if you like the merits of this game, then buy it, and then avoid. And that was my whole system.
So what was, my question to both of you is, what was your readers' feedback on doing that?
Mine didn't really care all that much. I would get a person every so often that would get upset, but then again, I also had a very, very... I was writing for a very small website, so I wasn't getting that much of impact.
I actually had lots of people complain about the fact that I didn't use scores. But my reviews were so, good, encompassing, easy to read. I don't know what it was, but I easily had 5 to 10 times as many views on my reviews as the other guys that wrote for the site.
Yep.
And they all used scores. So everyone would come to my reviews and be like, "Hey man, where's your score? Why haven't you scored this game?" And then some people would get really upset, like, "You haven't scored this game. I'm, never gonna read you again." But I never put scores on stuff.
Yeah, I think, at root, you hear, articles every now and again of game developers saying, you get X bonus if the game you've, helped make gets above 85 on Metacritic. And I think that is fundamentally flawed and just a horrible practice.
Agreed.
And then, like Rage kind of alluded at, not all 8s are created equal.
Yeah.
I think one of the things now, like if you play an early access game and, it's really fun and very well made, but there's a bunch of bugs, like you'd happily give that an 8 and recommend it. Whereas if you get a AAA title that you paid $80 for and there's like 5 bugs, then it's like, nah, that's a 6. Like, I've paid this much money, there shouldn't be anything wrong with it.
I almost said, "Where are you that your games cost $80, but you're in Australia?"
Yep. Oh, baby.
Well, you also touch on another topic for another day, trying to review early access games.
I actually did a bit of that.
See, I wrote before early access was really a thing, so it was the game was out or it wasn't. The only outliner at the time was Minecraft, which really was sort of the forebear for early access if you really think about it.
Yeah, well, it was the first one to kind of crack the public consciousness, I think. It was the first one that got big.
Yeah.
And in much the same way that early access worked very well for Kerbal, they had a more or less functioning engine at the start of early access and then added features. And I think that's definitely the secret. You need your engine working pretty well at the start of early access.
Yeah, which is a problem a lot of early access games has, is that they just release and they're in an absolutely terrible state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a play.
And that kills it.
And then you have early access titles that just die on the vine. They put out an update or two and either push themselves up to 1.0 and, just negate any developer roadmap that they have. Or
Space.
I was leaving that. That's a topic for later.
All right.
They either die on the vine. I have actually a couple games that are still technically early access, that are still being sold as early access, that just haven't gotten an update in ages.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. One more thing I was
Which
going
I
to say.
must admit.
But before
Sorry,
we
you
get too
go.
far away from the discussion about review scores, one more thing that I wanted to say on the topic is, I think that review scores would work like a numeric score if we had a system that everyone agreed on. But everyone has their own version of what a review score is. The big review sites have got, review scores under a 7 are irrelevant. So, 7 is the new 1. Then lots of indie reviewers, like, for example, I guess technically Jim Sterling is an indie reviewer, even though he's like a really big example of that. But he has his own review score metric posted on his site, what his 1 through 10 means. And another indie reviewer will have the same thing. So there's no unified system. So you could see, one number and on one place and one number on another place. They mean two completely different things.
And, to also add on to that, you get into the problem of Metacritic.
Oh, yeah. Metabomb?
Where... No, I'm not going to touch on that one, but the whole fact that they weight certain review scores differently. Let's say IGN gets more weight than a random indie reviewer. What makes IGN's review more relevant than a little indie reviewer on their own website?
Yeah.
Who is still big enough to get on a Metacritic, by the way. I'm not talking if, like, I put up a Tumblr post about a game. That doesn't count. I'm talking about someone that's a big enough reviewer that their personal website is on Metacritic.
Yeah.
And the fact that game companies are actually losing money because their weighted reviews are falling short of contracts. Fallout New Vegas is very famous on this, and there was another one recently that lost a bonus because their average review wasn't past a certain milestone, and I'm completely blanking on what the game was, but it wasn't New Vegas, it was another one.
Yep, I remember reading that, and that was like they got 74 from like
Destiny.
every single reviewer, and they needed 75 Destiny? Or something.
Yeah, Destiny missed their bonus. I think they had to have an 80 or an 80 something, and they got like a 77 or a 78.
Yeah, and Metacritic is so flawed. This is also a topic for another day. Add it to the list.
All right.
Where the first review out for a site is it. That's the definitive word. So if a site updates or does a second review on a game that was fundamentally broken at the beginning, let's pick one almost at random.
Any Stardock game ever?
Well, I was going to say SimCity.
Yeah, famous example.
Where
even Halo was.
Well, I
so
was
the
just going to
latest
say
Halo at launch was crap.
Well, I was just going to say a lot of sites they reviewed SimCity highly because they were on their own little private server. Because, if you don't know, at least at the time, I think they've actually patched it out where it does have an offline mode now. It had always on DRM, Oh, there's a topic for another day.
Add it to the list.
That's going to be our new catchphrase, isn't it?
Add it to the list.
But the always on DRM was just overwhelmed by the people buying it day one, to the point that you couldn't play it for what was it, a week?
Yeah.
After launch or something like that.
Well,
at
I
least a
still
week.
can't play it because I'm not a moron.
Oh,
So you're not Wheatley.
No, I'm not. Don't call me a moron. I'm super astute.
Oh, well played. You actually picked up on the reference I was going for.
IQ is the infinite space from here to the moon. Okay, I'm done. That's enough for one day.
that was plenty.
Our viewer count is already low. I don't want to start losing co-hosts.
Oh, look at the time.
Well, Bob Ross is playing right now.
Good old Bob Ross. Yeah. So, in theory,
Yeah.
score system is good. You know, like movie scores. Most people, most movie scores are on parity with each other. Like, a 3-star movie probably going to be pretty average. You're probably going to enjoy it. And most movie critics have got.
Well, maybe it's. You just kind of touched on something that I didn't really think of. Maybe it's the fact that the standard scoring system is either a 10 or a 100-point score, not a 5-point.
That's true.
And if someone does do a 5-point, it's translated into a 100-point system by Metacritic. So if someone gives a game a 4-star review, that's still an 80, which is basically just just shy of death in a box for most games.
That might be the biggest problem with the review score, is that we use a number. Like, a movie that gets 5 stars, I would think of that as like an amazing movie. Not a perfect movie, but a game that gets a 100 is not an amazing game. Like, that's not how we think about it. We think of it as being a perfect game. 10 out of 10 is perfect, not amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
reminds
that's
me
the
of, and I'm blanking on the magazine. When I was moving, I was looking through a bunch of my old stuff and was looking at some of the old game sites not game sites, game magazines, and how they did reviews. And instead of a single unified score, this one had a system of it would do like fun factor, graphics, gameplay, that sort of thing, and rate each one a 1 to 5 with a final score, not being an average, of course, of like the overall what they think of the game. And maybe something like that would be a bit better.
I've seen.
Yeah.
There's some site that does that still. I want to say IGN, but I have no idea if that's right or not. There is a site that does that. And they'll break down all of the different aspects and then do an overall score.
Yeah, because I've played some games that have been, terribly clunky and a bit buggy, but still really fun.
Like
And then
PSP.
other games that have been... Yeah, exactly. And then other games that have been perfectly made and really polished. And 15 minutes later, you're like, well, I'm done here.
Yeah. So the review scores are broken. Fix it, games journalism.
Yeah.
Oh, they have a
We don't
lot
know
of
how,
things to
but do
fix.
better.
They have a lot of things to fix beyond review scores.
That's true. Yay, I got some science. Now to get plane parts and crash stuff for the next hour and a half. Alright. Moving swiftly forward onto our next topic. Crowdfunding. How do we feel about crowdfunding, Rage?
Oh boy.
Does
Well,
it
should
boil
we-
your
should-
blood?
Should we talk about the subject that brought this up first?
Sure. Tell me how you feel about Psychonauts 2.
Oh, I am so mixed on this. Partly because I really enjoyed the first Psychonauts. A matter of fact, even though it's hidden on my channel, it was actually the first game that I started a Let's Play series on.
Oh, that's cool. Why is it hidden on your channel?
Because it's unfinished. It was before my channel was partnered, so it was having to be broken up into 15-minute chunks. This was back when my YouTube channel is actually a lot older than it appears to be. Partly because, well, you could probably tell that because I actually have a custom URL, even though I'm under the 500 subscriber cap for that.
Yeah, your fancy schmancy custom URL. Well, I have to sit here with random numbers and letters. I'm not bitter at all.
But this was back before, getting partnered. It was pretty much invite only.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one reason it's hidden, and I'm not really wanting to do it now because Double Fine's kind of pissed me off. Space Base. What?
Good old Space Base.
Tell
Man,
us
you could do a
really
Let's
feel.
Play of that.
But Psychonauts 2, I'm so mixed on because I do want to see the story continue, but at the same time, people are fucking stupid to give them money for this because Space Base, because of Double Fine Adventure / Broken Age.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
history
track
with
record
Brutal
is not
Legend.
good.
Brutal Legend also was in serious danger of not coming out because it was so far behind and so over budget.
Brutal Legend is actually a very good and underrated game.
I found the first half of it very good. The second half, where it becomes basically an RTS, no. I hated that.
I loved that so much.
I like RTS. I don't like trying to play RTS with a controller.
Yeah.
No, that I can imagine.
I know. I can see how people dislike that.
But just looking at the recent history of Double Fine, I think people are letting their nostalgia overwrite their better judgment on this.
Yeah. Well, Space Base, they had funded, 1,000% over what they wanted. And they still gave up a quarter of the way through.
Well, the history behind Space Base was that it was funded through investors, and what their original plan was that somehow the sales of the early access game was going to fund the entire development. So they paid back their investors immediately with the early sales, and the sales trailed off.
Yeah, because they stopped adding anything to the game.
Yep.
Yeah, which you really
buying
run into. Yeah, you run into a catch-22 of people aren't buying the game because you're not adding to it, but you're not adding to the game because nobody's buying it. And also, they're based in one of the most expensive cities in the country, so their development costs are just astronomical compared to other places.
Yeah, because let's face it, it's not a graphically intense game.
No.
Like, there's not a lot of designers on staff.
And I wanted to buy DF9. I almost bought it when it was still in early access. And then for some reason I wound up not, and I'm really glad I didn't, because then right after that, it dropped off of early access. And they were like, okay, the game's released. And everybody was like, no, it's not.
I have my copy because a friend of mine got a free copy. They basically did this comp thing where if you had hack and slash, I think it was hack and slash, you were given a copy of Space Base DF9, sort of like a kick in the nuts. I'm not sure. And vice versa. If you had Space Base DF9, you were given hack and slash, which, from what I've heard, is actually a fairly decent game. But I'm not going to buy it from them.
So, are there any games that they've made that you do like in recent history?
I honestly, Double Fine's left such a bad taste in my mouth. I haven't looked at their games too closely. I do have a few of them that I intend to play at some point. Probably not on the channel. Like Stacking, for example, looks really interesting.
Stacking is actually a really cute, fun little game. I got Stacking in a Double Fine bundle maybe a year ago. I've not finished it, but I've played 3 or 4 hours of it. It's a really fun, cute little game.
Let's see, stacking. There's Costume Quest and its sequel look interesting.
I've got Costume Quest, but I haven't played it. But yeah, I agree. It does look interesting.
Yeah, it's just like I said, Double Fine's left such a bad taste in my mouth from some of the recent stuff that I'm put off by really picking up anything of theirs.
Yep, I will never early access them again.
I'm hesitant
Like
to
they
buy
have
from
broken
them in
the
general.
trust there.
Early access is a really tough one, and I think that early access kind of falls into the same vein as crowdfunding, because you put out an unfinished product, expect people to invest in it as a future product. Maybe a little bit of a stretch to say that, but I think that early access does fall very close to the early access vein, or to the crowdfunding vein.
I'm just looking at the. Sorry, I'm wanting to give an update on the campaign, and it is currently 60% funded with 35 days left. They're shooting for $3.3 million dollars. That's just absurd.
Why do you need $3.3 million to make Psychonauts 2?
Because they're based in San Francisco. It's an expensive town to be in.
Yeah.
I'm serious. That's driving up their development cost big time.
I can see where some games have huge budgets. I think that put that on the topic list, video game budgets. But I can see where some games have large budgets, but a game like Psychonauts, I don't see it having that big of a budget. And I totally understand what you're saying. They're in San Francisco, cost of living is really high, so people expect more salaries, plus, just the general operating cost, but I just don't get it, man.
I will be back in a couple of minutes, lads.
Okay.
I think we've mentioned Double Fine too many times and you had to go throw up.
I won't. Whoops, I knocked my engine off. That's not so good. I won't buy early access from Double Fine again, but I wouldn't have a problem buying their games. They've got quite a few good games. Yeah, I'm not gonna, they're not Digital Homicide. I'm not gonna throw out all of their games just based on one misstep, but.
Well, the thing is, it's not one misstep. It's been quite a few missteps.
What are your other missteps?
Well, just the way that they've handled. I'm trying to think of a good way to put it. The crowdfunding things, the way that they've treated their gamers lately. It's just so off-putting to me.
How have they treated their gamers lately? Have I missed something in the news?
It's just Tim Schafer's gone on several rants lately on Twitter, and he's become almost Phil Fish-like for me. Which there's another topic, huh?
Man, I don't really know if there's much left to say about Phil Fish, unless you just want to punch him, use him as a punching bag.
Well, let's put it this way: when I got Fez, I took great delight in turning the donation or the split away from Phil Fish. I got it in a humble bundle, and I put everything to charity because of Fez.
Well, you are allowed to do that. I don't like Phil Fish either. He's a character, let's say, because I'm a nice guy.
I mean, maybe I'm just missing it, and that he has this whole Andy Kaufman thing that he wants to do. Partly because he has Andy Kaufman or at least he did. I'm not sure if he still does, as his avatar on Twitter.
Oh.
That he sees himself as Andy Kaufman and decides to act like what he would act like today.
I didn't know that because I don't care about Phil Fish on Twitter.
Well, it's just one of those things that you see his tweets as like, oh, that's Andy Kaufman. Oh, that explains a few things.
So, outside of Double Fine, how do you feel about crowdfunding?
It once again comes down to not just the developer, but what they plan on it. I understand a smaller developer doing crowdfunding because it allows games to be bigger in scope than what they could otherwise develop. But then you get game developers that really have no reason to be on crowdfunding.
Like Sony
using
with
it.
Shenmue 3?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was about to go.
Me and you, man, we're like one brain.
Yeah, one brain split between the two of us.
We know what's up. Anyways, yeah. Continue.
Well, just let's go ahead and skip to Shenmue 3. You have developers that really don't need to use crowdfunding. Using... Was it E3 that they announced it on the Sony stage?
On the Sony stage, they announced the Kickstarter campaign.
Which is just insane to me.
Me too. There have been people who have defended it and have said, oh, well, they were just using that to judge people's interests. That's a load of garbage. Like, people wanted Shenmue 3 for years and years and years. Like, go browse forums, go look online, you know?
If they were using it to judge interest, or, give something to super fans who want to pre-order extremely early, they went and had stretch goals, adding content to the game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way I see it. And the fact that they didn't meet all the stretch goals, at least the last time I looked, tells me that the original plan for the game isn't going to be fully realized because there wasn't enough Kickstarter bucks, even though the game will sell.
Yeah, and it was the most successful game on Kickstarter ever. But it was still a failure because it didn't hit its, $10 million?
I'd have to go look.
Stretch goal? Or something like that. It made over $6 million on Kickstarter, which is not enough money to make that game. Shenmue 2's budget was, I believe, somewhere around $25 million. So, $6 million is not enough to make that game, which, again, is ridiculous to me, but that's beside the point. I think that what Sony was doing with that was they knew it would sell. They knew they were going to make a bunch of money. And they said, yeah, we'll give you some money, but we're not going to give you all the money. Go ahead and go with your Kickstarter campaign, and we'll put you on our main stage. And so they used Kickstarter to crowdfund partial cost of the game. And then Sony and probably some other investors will finish picking up the tab. And then collect probably the lion's share of the profits after it's over. And make it exclusive to PS4.
For a limited time, most likely.
Yeah, they'll at the very least release it on PC. But I'm trying to think of some good crowdfunding campaigns that I've seen over the years. Have you ever paid into a crowdfunding campaign of any kind?
A couple times years ago. Mostly because I was interested in what they were doing with the game. But I've gotten burned a couple times. That's why I really haven't done crowdfunding all that much. For example, Cloudberry Kingdoms I put in for, and they later got a publisher. And I just felt really burnt because one of the main things that they were giving out as a pre-order, they didn't give to the Kickstarter guys.
Right.
They were giving away the soundtrack, and eventually they said that okay, we'll give the soundtrack to the Kickstarter guys because it's fair. Well, the the way that they kept saying that they would do it was they would basically have a separate development branch that they'd move all the keys that were sent out to that branch and add the DLC to the soundtrack DLC to it.
Uh-huh.
But they never did that. What they eventually did was they sent out a link to a Dropbox to download the MP3s via email.
That's interesting.
Which is just, that's just not acceptable, you know?
I mean, if they're just going to do that, just give them away to everybody. Here,
Yeah.
have access to our Dropbox and get the MP3s of our soundtrack.
Yeah, which pretty much happened, and I think they actually pulled the files out of the Dropbox eventually because it was just going around the web.
Right. I mean, even if they pull them out of Dropbox, they're never getting that back. It's gone forever.
Yeah.
Everyone who wants that soundtrack will now have it. I've crowdfunded a couple of things. It's no longer called this. They renamed it. But when it was on Kickstarter, it was called Planets Cubed.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a kind of a Minecraft-esque builder, but it's got a much higher voxel count, and you can do a lot more with the shapes and the blocks, and it's got a story mode to it, and you can go to other planets and other worlds. I actually got a pre-release, like a pre-alpha version, when they launched their Kickstarter campaign. I got one when I was still writing for Left Stick Down, the gaming website that I used to write for, and play it. And I played the pre-alpha version for somewhere in the neighborhood of like 12 hours. And then as soon as their Kickstarter went live, I was like, I have to back this. I enjoyed this so much. And the alpha version that came with the Kickstarter doesn't work. So I haven't been able to play it for like a year because it's still broken. The game is still in active development. Like, they have, a monthly newsletter that goes out, and then you can go on their website and their blog and check out their weekly updates. But, yep, doesn't work. I spent $50 on it. I'll get it eventually. And then I've kickstarted several music campaigns. I'll find an artist that I like, and they're doing like maybe an album release on Kickstarter or something, getting together money to make their first like official album. I've kickstarted a few people that way.
Yeah, the other two projects I kickstarted. One I went in with a friend, and it's actually on his Kickstarter account. I just got the spare key from it because it was a double key. Was Divinity Original Sin.
Okay.
Which is just an amazing game. And a little tiny one that I actually got in on like an early bird thing where they were giving away the game for $1 if you got in early. Was a roguelike called Crayon Chronicles, which isn't bad. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. So I kind of have the full spectrum.
Crayon Chronicles. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it has this. It has this hand-drawn art style. I'm not talking like it looks like. Looking forward to seeing this crash. I'm not talking about, it looks like drawings. It looks like just crayon scribbles, like a kindergartner would draw.
That's interesting.
Well, not quite kindergartner, but, it's very, very rough, and it looks like crayon drawings.
Right. That's interesting. I'll have to... Or I feel inclined to check that out.
Yeah, it's not a bad game, at least from what I played of it. It is on Steam, so... And they did eventually send me the Steam key. It took them a while to actually get the keys, though.
So, how do you feel about early access as a form of crowdfunding? Do you think that it is, or isn't? Is it just a different business model?
I think it really comes down to the developer, how they are using it. Because some developers are using it as sort of a last sort of stretch to their release, where they're only in early access for a few months.
Okay.
It's basically like the beta period where it's basically turned into a paid beta, which that's a topic for another day. Paid betas.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I remember
the topic.
when betas were free things that you got to test a game.
I remember when betas were actually used for testing games and not demos.
Yeah.
I remember when every game had a demo.
Yeah. I remember those days. Getting demo discs in your whatever gaming magazine you subscribe to. And because you were a kid, you made that demo last for months.
Oh, yeah. But every game did it.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why they don't do demos anymore. There was actually a very informative extra credits episode where they were talking about why games don't have demos anymore.
I'm sure I've seen it. I just don't remember it. I've watched every episode of Extra Credits except for like a couple of the most current ones.
Basically, it came down to development time and the fact that it loses them sales because more people would try the game or try the demo and be like, "This isn't for me," than people that are on the fence and try and buy it because of the demo.
Yep, and if you buy it, you're more likely to enjoy it.
Yep.
It's a
because
psychological
you paid money
thing.
for it.
Yeah, you've paid money for it, so you can't be wrong. You'll convince yourself that you really like an experience even when you don't. Or maybe it's like you don't hate it, but you'll convince yourself that you like it more than just being like, meh.
Yep, I've heard that described as the thermomix principle.
I have never heard that term before.
So it's like the more you pay for it, the better it must be because you are a rational, intelligent person.
Oh.
And quite clearly wouldn't pay lots of money for something that is crap.
That is the concept behind Grey Goose vodka. Like, it's not a high-quality vodka. It's just kind of normal, average vodka. But because they charge so much for it, everyone thinks it must be high-quality stuff.
Don't forget they advertise on it.
Yeah.
Or at least they used to on NPR.
Oh, man.
I remember hearing so much about Grey Goose vodka at the end of Whose Line Is It Anyway? Or not Whose Line Is It Anyway? Wait, don't tell me. Whose Line Is It Anyway? It would probably be a lot funnier if they were all drinking Grey Goose vodka. Actually, I'm surprised that wasn't an episode at one point.
How do you feel about KSP since it was in early access for forever?
Well, KSP is kind of a strange one in that, some other games are doing it now where it slowly racked up the price. So if you bought it early, you actually were paying very, very little for it. I actually got KSP for like $13.
Yeah, I got KSP for $20.
Yeah, I got in at like $10 or something like that on sale, like way back in the day. When it first went on Steam, I think. But I think KSP have done the whole early access thing very well.
Why? What is your reason for believing that? I mean, I agree with you. I think they have done a good job, but...
Because the game was fun and good value at the price point of early access. So like 0.1618, like it was clearly not finished and buggy. But there was a very clear sense of where the game was going to go and what it could be. And I think they've consistently taken very noticeable steps towards that with every update. Like, building rockets and flying to the moon was just as much fun with crappy aerodynamics and limited parts. And now it is more fun. The game's going to crash less often and it's much prettier. But the core mechanics of the game were there early on in early access.
I was a late adopter. I didn't get into KSP until it was in beta. Like, once it hit beta, I was like, okay, I'm comfortable buying this game now. And I still felt like the game crashed a ton. I mean, for a long time, my most stable build was 30 minutes of playtime before a crash. Granted, I was using mods, but that's how people play KSP for the most part.
Yeah, well, I don't think there was as many mods when I started. So maybe that was why I had a better experience very early on.
Honestly, even my base game crashed a lot, though. Because I played for many hours stock, probably 100 hours before I started playing mods. I still would have a game crash every 2 hours or less.
Yeah. And it says something about the game that we're willing to accept that.
Yeah, I've said that before. I even said that on an episode of Kerbalcast. Like, we put up with so much from this game that we just would not accept in other games because of how much we love it.
Well, also, this game's pretty unique in a lot of ways. You don't see a lot of rocketry handled this way. Only other game I could think of that handles rocketry fairly simply, where you could kind of get a grasp of it, is Simple Rockets.
Good game, Simple Rockets.
Yeah, it's actually on Steam also.
Yeah, I've got it on for mobile, but it is on Steam.
Yeah, same. And that is super simple.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad game, but people compare it to KSP, and every time they do, I'm like, no. I mean, you play with rockets, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's basically like training wheels for the very, very, very basics to get into KSP.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it.
But even then, you don't have aerodynamics, so you don't have to worry about gravity turn. You just, turn over and burn as hard as you can laterally, just getting enough height to avoid the planet, and that's your orbit.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, at least you get to space by going around, not up.
True.
Yeah. It is very difficult, though, in Simple Rockets to make interplanetary maneuvers. And it could just be because I'm playing on the mobile version. But I've never been able to do it. Not once. The best I can do is go to the moon.
Yeah, so what were your guys' thoughts on how KSP handled early access? Or did I miss that part?
No, you were the only one that actually answered that. I think that even though I did not have like what I would consider to be like the perfect experience with it, I still feel like that they did a much better job than other games that I've played. I mean, I do buy a lot of early access games because I have a hard time waiting. Like, if I see a concept that I really like, I'm like, ooh, I want that game. I'm going to buy it right now in early access. And a lot of games, even if they have releases or do notes and updates, I don't feel like they have done as well of a job as KSP did with actually making, big sweeping updates to the game, getting it to its release schedule. Either you have a problem with feature creep, so they never actually get around to implementing the things that you wanted the most in the first place.
Yeah.
Or, if the game's not abandoned, the updates that they make for it are all really tiny. And I'm okay with tiny updates and bug fixes and stuff, but, games need to work towards their end goal and eventually come out of early access. KSP is one of the only games that I can think of that actually has done that.
Yeah, the other one I'm playing at the moment is Subnautica, and they are, like, the devs there, like, same with Squad, are very good with their communication, and they pump out like, little updates twice a day if you subscribe to like the experimentals branch, whereas the big updates probably come out like every 6 weeks or so, and they are like big noticeable updates. We said we were going to add X, Y, and Z features, and here they are, like fully realized and really well done.
So it's sort of the Prison Architect style where they're at a set schedule.
Yeah, pretty much. And the same sort of thing, like you could build a prison early on in Prison Architect and manage it and make it work. And then you could just do it with like drugs, and then you could also do it with gangs. Like at every stage of the development, there was a fun game in there.
still haven't played Prison Architect, so can't really contribute very much to that discussion.
It's a fun little game. I've probably played through maybe 3 times.
Yeah, I need to actually play the final version. Or I shouldn't even say the final version because they're still adding to it.
Yeah, the launch version.
I don't feel like this plane is going to work very well.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I'll give it that much.
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Oh, oh my, that's not good. We'll have to adjust that. Launch anyways.
Well, let's see what he means by... A little nose heavy, aren't you?
Oh, hey. Look at that. Well, I'll be.
Did you actually get that off the runway?
Well, after you ground off the nose a bit.
It is extremely unstable. It just wants to flip over.
No, it's very, very maneuverable. It just wants to maneuver in a different way than you want it to.
Oh, every time I pull up, it pulls to the right and does an actual barrel roll.
Do a barrel roll.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No, no.
I think I need to resort my games and just list the games I have in early access so I can keep an eye on them.
I've got a category in my games list that's early access games.
See, I don't. I have just generic genres.
Yeah, I've got a few in favorites and no other tags.
Oh, I kind of need tags at this point.
I use so many
I should
tags.
probably add tags. I wish they had a tag for full controller support.
Oh,
That
you can
bugs
make
me
one
that you have to
yourself.
go to the store for that. Yeah, but you can't see it in your library.
Yeah,
Unless you go to big picture mode and filter it.
well, I mean, you go to the store one time, make a list of them, and then you don't ever have to do it again.
But can you add
Or if
tags
you-
to your
or if
library
you-
games
Well, here's the
from
thing.
the store?
Also, if you're using, like you said, big picture mode, you're able to filter out fairly easily. Just make a note of that.
Yeah, true.
But even then, big picture mode is a little. It doesn't give you all the ones that are full controller support because I've had a few that said that they were or weren't. That not quite right.
Yeah. I'm quite annoyed that, like, what is it, XCOM, the new one, had full controller support, and then they added Enemy Within, and it doesn't have controller support anymore. Like, it's the same game, same engine. Why did you take out controller support?
That's interesting. I did not know that.
Me either.
Because that's like a perfect couch game. You know, turn-based, don't need really precise twitch reactions.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with a topic that isn't on the list.
Okay.
What do you think of how the Steam controller is going to... Do you think it's going to change what games are considered couch games?
No.
Or do you
I
think
think
it's
it's
going to... Or do you think it's going to open up more games to be couch games? I guess that would be a better topic.
No.
I reckon it's going to add about 30% more games. Like the kind of partial controller support will be more accessible, I think, just by way of having the touchpad rather than, you know, a joystick or a D-pad.
I have not tried it. I want to. But since I'm not, I don't work in the games industry, I would have to buy it now. And I'm not willing to spend that money on it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they will eventually have some sort of kiosk, probably at GameStop or something, where you're able to try the Steam controller.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I've done a bit of research on it, and I've seen some really, really amazing videos of people playing with it. For
And the reviews have all
playing.
been pretty positive.
Yeah, but the thing is that it has a learning curve. You have to spend pretty much a day or two hardcore using it to actually start to get it to where it starts to click because it's just so different.
See, that's what my reason is for why it's not going to change anything. Eventually, maybe. But right now, most of the people who are buying games, who have the money to buy this controller and try it out, are people like me and you guys who have played games for years and are getting a little bit older, and they either don't have the time or don't want to put in the time to learn a new system. And so, I mean, it may very well be superior to current controllers. A lot of people are saying that it is. I don't know because I haven't used it personally, but it's kind of like, what's the quote from science? A new scientific idea doesn't grow because your opponents change sides. It's because they all die and then someone grows up hearing the new theory. I think that this is kind of in that vein, you know. My kid might grow up and grow up on a Steam controller and then have a huge access to, or a bigger library of games to play sitting on our couch because he's used to it. But me, I'm an old man. I don't want to put in the time to learn a new controller.
Yeah, well, I, as mentioned, didn't grow up with consoles, so I never really got used to the 2 joysticks thing. So I cannot play an FPS with a controller to save my life. I just can't do it.
Well, I grew up with consoles, but I switched away from consoles in the PS2 and 64 era, where the only place that you saw the 2 joysticks was the DualShock controllers, and it was really before they were doing a lot of FPS on consoles. The only FPS I really played on consoles was GoldenEye.
Yep.
GoldenEye is extremely different to other FPS on console as well.
Yeah.
I grew up on console. NES, SNES, all that jazz. Had a PS1, PS2, Xbox 360. So I'm very, very used to controllers and the dual stick setup, and I can play an FPS pretty well on a controller. I play better on a PC, but I can still hold my own with a controller.
No, I am at the empty my clip into the sky or my feet kind of level of FPS is on a controller.
Play inverted or non-inverted?
I think I play inverted, so when I push the stick up, I expect that to look at my feet.
So you push it forward. Like if you push the stick away from you,
yep,
you're looking at your feet.
Yep.
Okay, yes, so you play inverted. Good man. This is the way it works in real life. That's how your head works. I always get
Yeah, exactly, which is why it's just backwards at the start.
I always get into debates with people. I don't know anybody else that plays inverted. And I'm like, it makes so much sense. Your head works like it's inverted. I'm done. You can talk about whatever it was you were going to say.
Yeah, I think that's like part of the thing. Like if you're, at a friend's place and you're all sitting around, passing the controller around playing something, and then like it gets to my turn, and it's just like, allow me to subdue the scenery for a bit.
Well, myself, I take the war games approach. The only winning move is not to play with a controller.
Are there any games you play on PC with a controller, Rage?
Yeah, I'll play racing games. I'm really weird when it comes to the GTA style, where it's a lot of driving and a lot of shooting. I'll actually juggle my controller. I'll use the controller in driving sections, but when it goes to on foot or any significant shooting, I'll actually switch to the mouse and keyboard.
That's interesting. Normally, I will play RPGs with a controller, just because it doesn't really matter all that much what control style you play with. A lot of RPGs nowadays are optimized for controllers anyways because of consoles. Fallout 4 is the first RPG I've played on PC in a long time where I'm strictly using the mouse and keyboard.
Well, I'm not sure if Fallout 4 is a good example of a RPG more than it is a shooter with RPG elements from what I've seen.
That's true.
Yep, I'd call it an FPS in its play style.
An FPG, or wait, first person game.
Well, you just named a lot of games.
FPRPG, first person role playing game. Thanks, Nigel. Thanks for agreeing with me. Inverted is the only way to play.
Yeah, there's 3 of us now.
Nigel.
But I play like lots of the side-scrolly games on PC with a controller, like the adventure style games, because they just work perfectly.
I'm not a big side scroller guy. They're not bad. They're just not my style of game. But yeah, on PC, I will use a controller usually for RPGs, for racing games, flight sims, if my flight stick does not work with the game, which is pretty rare nowadays, but occasionally it happens. That's about it. I don't think I've got out a controller for an FPS or third-person shooter or anything in a long time. You know, in our group, Spaceman plays with a controller for almost everything.
Yeah, and he also lags behind a lot of times, doesn't he?
He also what?
Lags behind.
Yeah, he's just a controller for Warframe and for Space Engineers. I can't imagine playing Space Engineers with a controller.
I know.
Well,
I'm
like
probably being a little mean to Spaceman, but he does lag behind us a lot of the time.
He's getting better.
Even though the way I play Warframe, it actually probably could work it with the controller where it's more melee based.
Yeah, you are a pretty big melee Warframe.
Yeah, which I'm actually building a Warframe to support you. As soon as I finished up with Oberon, I'm going to be building it.
To support me? How so?
Well, it's a support class that has a strong energy regeneration ability.
Ooh, fancy. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't have the aura I want for her, but it's something I'm going to be keeping an eye out for.
Very, very fancy. Yeah, I just need to get Ember, and then I'll have a real power Warframe. Like Mag is definitely, but not like the top power Warframe or power-based Warframe. So I think we've gotten way off topic, but that definitely wraps us up on crowdfunding.
Yeah, crowdfunding, too long didn't read. Developers can use it for good or evil. Unfortunately, the evil is what we pay more attention to. Yeah. Sort of like early access in a lot of ways.
Yeah. A lot of good games out there that do it, but the only ones that get the press are the ones that do a bad job at it.
Or a phenomenally good job.
Yeah, KSP's gotten a lot of press, and they did a very good job. All right, next on the topic sheet is the games that we picked out, Rage. Our Steam Weekly deals.
Okay.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I just want to bring up my thing. Do not buy this game. Day One Gary's Incident. Is that the game? Is that on your list?
That is not on my list, but I considered it.
Well, you probably knew exactly the game I was talking about because I mentioned before the show, it's a developer that uses the DMCA Act as a weapon against criticism. That's primarily the reason why I picked it over other games on the weekly sale.
Well, that, and it's also a steaming pile of horse turd.
Yeah, it's
that'll do it.
I don't think you could build a computer that could run that game well because it's so poorly optimized.
I think that was Total Biscuit's first big DMCA takedown on his channel.
No, actually, it was the second.
Oh, it was
the War
the second?
Z was his first.
I know that video's got something like several million views. I don't know how many exactly, but it's in the millions. Yeah.
Was that the video that he had taken down, or the video about the takedown?
Both. He had a video about the takedown, but it was taken down through DMCA. He's actually had 3 taken down, and this was the second one. It is just hilarious.
Oh.
If you want to see a very poorly made game, just go watch Total Biscuit's video of Day One Scary's Incident. But it's 60% off. It's $1.59 US. And honestly, I think you're better off just going and getting a cheap hamburger. And if you want to relive, if you want to have the Gary's incident while having your while you're having your cheap hamburger, go to a very bad, dirty restaurant, get it undercooked, and have diarrhea. What? And while you're sitting on the toilet with your stomach in knots, that's what it's like playing Day One Scary's Incident.
Have you actually played it?
No, because I've avoided it like the plague. But
it sounds like it's pretty similar in experience.
Because I know better than to go to bad restaurants.
I would play it if somebody gave me money. Otherwise, I wouldn't touch the game with a 10-foot pole. But if you want to give me some money to play it, sure, I'll play it. Actually, I do a lot of things for money.
I'd say that about all games.
Yeah, your uncle, you may want to go pick out a game on the Steam weekly sale to talk about, by the way. This is something that I'd like to include you.
So what was your other game, Rage? Did you pick out 2?
Yeah, I picked out one that actually isn't bad.
Okay.
It's not amazing, but it's not bad either. It's called Barbarian.
Okay.
It's a tower defense game. It's also 60% off, coming to $3.19 USD. This is one I've actually played as well.
Okay.
It's well, like I said, it's a weird kind of tower defense game, but it has a sort of, I'm trying to think of a good way to describe it. It's basically like a bullet hell game as well, where you're controlling a barbarian bard who is the leader of essentially a group of allies that you hire through various means to protect your town.
Sounds like it could be fun.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Does it have like RPG elements and stuff like that?
It doesn't really have RPG elements. A lot of people do criticize it for being very flash game-ish, where it's very grindy. Because in order to, unless you're very, very, very good at this genre, bullet hell / tower defense, because as you move, your followers follow behind you, and they're actually able to take bullets as well. So you have to be very careful about them getting hit. If you're not exceptionally good at that genre, you're going to have to grind for a while to upgrade your followers and to get more powerful ones to be able to actually have a chance at finishing the game, which I actually haven't. I've played several hours of this game, and I'm probably maybe halfway through, and it just gets harder and harder as you progress through.
What'd you say it was called again?
It's called Barbarian.
Okay,
Bardbarian.
I thought that's what you said. I was really happy about the pun.
Yeah, like I said, it's not bad. It's not great. But it's not bad either. And if you're a fan of the genre, it's very worth checking out. I'm pretty sure I picked it up in a bundle somewhere. And it has trading cards, I believe, so that does knock a fair amount of the price off. So it's probably about $3 after everything.
Ooh, nice. I mean, I live for trading cards, as everyone here knows.
Yeah, you'll do anything for a trading card, and I do mean anything.
Absolutely. Anything you want. Let me establish my orbit, and then I'll pull up my list to look at my 2 games. I also did a bad one and a good one. I think I said that in our chat we were having earlier, that I was going to do one good game and one bad game.
Yeah, and that's what I was pretty much doing as soon as I saw Gary's incident in the Steam Weekly sale.
All right, we are in an orbit. Now let me pull up my list here.
Meanwhile, your uncle is frantically looking at the Steam Weekly sale, thinking, "What are these games?" Because that is kind of the theme of the weekly sale a lot of times.
Yeah.
Well, I can't even see Barbarians there.
Yeah, it was there.
They did change the sale. When I looked earlier today, they only had 30 games on sale. And then I looked back later and it was 100 and something.
It is on the weekly sale. It may be just a regional thing.
Yeah, I may have just missed it because it's definitely on sale. I just missed it in the list of week-long deals.
Excuse me. All right, so my first game, my bad game. Don't buy this game. It's not worth it. Is Echelon. It is an older, I believe 2007, 2006, 2007, sci-fi space combat sim. And like it is a true sim. Like there are 1,000,001 buttons on your ship to do things. So I thought it sounded like it was right up my alley. And I bought it on sale last year when it first came out on Steam. So it didn't have very many reviews then. Didn't work. The game just did not work. It would load, and then that was it. It would crash whenever I tried to load levels. It would crash whenever I tried to load tutorials. It would crash whenever I would just reload the game and pop into a menu too fast. And then occasionally when I could get into a level, nothing would work. My flight stick didn't work. My keyboard and mouse didn't work. A controller didn't work. It just didn't work. Apparently it doesn't work on a lot of modern setups. Even doing things like running it in compatibility mode, it just doesn't know what to do with modern hardware. So it's a game they slapped on Steam to make a few bucks. And when I bought it at the time, it was before the refund policy existed, and I could not get it refunded. Currently, it's 91% off, costs 39 cents. You'd be better off just throwing that 39 cents in the trash. You'd feel better about that decision than purchasing this.
Actually, I'm seeing it for 35.
Oh, 35 cents. My apologies. It's not worth 35 cents either. Just throw your 35 cents in the trash.
Well, I just wanted to go check it out, see what it is, and trying to convey correct stuff at least.
Correct information. We're very, very factual on this show. My positive game that I would recommend is Survivor Squad. It's 90% off at 89 cents at least, if I read it properly. And what it is it's a survival crafting game, but a zombie survival crafting game, which you think, there's been like 1,000,000 of those. But what it is that it's a top-down. And you start off with one guy, and you very quickly find a second person. And then you build this group of survivors that travels with you. And there is a story to the game. And you're trying to complete the story. And you go from place to place, scavenging materials and resources to craft what you need to survive and go through and beat the story. It's got RPG elements. All of your characters can level up. It's got permadeath. So you can die. Whenever your characters die, they're gone forever. And if you lose your entire squad, then it's game over. It is a roguelike slash roguelite, depending on how you categorize those games. So if everyone dies, you lose and you have to start over. And the levels are all randomized. The layout of the levels, I should say, is randomized on each playthrough. It's a lot of fun. I've got a couple hours clocked in it on Steam. I've got most of my game time outside of Steam in it. I've done one full playthrough on normal difficulty, and normal difficulty is extremely difficult, especially towards the end.
Yeah, it has very mixed reviews on here.
It does have mixed reviews. I've been reading some of the negative reviews. I don't understand why people don't like it unless they've had like performance issues. It's not like a very pretty game, but it did have some optimization issues on release. and some people have had problems with bugs. But outside of performance problems, unless people just don't like the games, I'm not sure why people have reviewed it fairly negatively.
Well, a lot of people are comparing it to a Flash game, which really isn't a fair thing, you know.
It looks like a Flash game. I'll say that, but it definitely does not play like a Flash game. That is, yeah. I just like when people do that. People completely throw away a game based on its aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like, I do agree that aesthetic can completely make or break a game depending on what you're going for, but I try really hard to judge a game based more on the merits of its gameplay and story, depending on, exactly what genre of game it falls under. But because I'm just not a big visual guy. I've said that before about graphics. Like, I don't really care about graphical fidelity all that
You
much.
are not the prettiest princess.
I'm not the prettiest princess, and I'm okay with that. Not every game can be the best looking game.
No, well, it's gameplay and storyline that keep me going in a game. Like, pretty will get me in and through, like, a certain amount of time. And if it's not fun, but it's very pretty, then I'm not going to play.
Yeah, I agree. So, Uncle, did you take a few minutes to go look at the store? And
I've had a gander. There is nothing there that I have previously played that I can outright say avoid like the plague.
Oh, that didn't stop me.
You were correct, Rage. It did not stop you.
So one I will mention, because I see both of you guys want it, is Cosmonautica, which is getting average reviews, and I have quite enjoyed. And that's 30% off, but it's down to like $9.
Yeah,
which is probably only $2 for you.
Yeah, I've always treated my wish list as more of a watch list than actual wish list.
I do the same, but I do genuinely want Cosmonautica.
So that I would recommend. I've probably only played maybe 4 or 5 hours, but it's pretty fun.
Describe the gameplay to me. Like, what's it like?
So I would call it a people management and trading game. So you're in charge of your ship. You build rooms that will either generate you money, like a cargo hold, so you can fly around and buy and sell cargo, pick up stuff for missions, like a very simplified version of every space trading game ever, like any of the X games, etc., etc. But your crew also have needs like food, health, bathroom needs. So you've also got to build those facilities on your ship. And they all have a bunch of research as well to upgrade them to make them more efficient. So you do research during the time it takes to fly from planet to planet or system to system. So that's the bit where the crew management comes in. Like, if you meet all their needs, your crew will work harder. If you don't and they get sick, then they stop working at all. If your pilot goes on strike, then suddenly the time it takes to fly between two places goes way up. You might miss your deadline for a mission, etc., etc. Like, fun. Not super hard, but very pleasant.
Yep, and that is basically everything I want in a game.
Yep. And the art style is a bit cartoony and very tongue-in-cheek, which pushes my buttons.
Yeah, I like the art style. What is the game? Space Trucker? Space Truck? I don't know. There's a game that I saw on mobile devices that's supposed to be coming to PC soon. That is Space Truckers or Space something like that. That is basically that.
I saw Space Food Truckers or something recently.
Space Food Truck is one that I'm interested in as well, and it is also coming to Steam. It might actually already be on Steam. Not sure. But I mean, my Steam library is loaded with management type games. I've got X3, Terran Conflict, and Albion Prelude. I've got tons of 4X strategy games. Cosmonautica on my wish list.
Also,
I've got mobile games on my phone that are like that. I might
Let's
have a
see,
problem.
strategy. I'm pretty sure I have a management thing here somewhere, or if I don't, I need to.
I've been meaning to put a lot more
here it
time
is.
into the new Galactic Civs as well.
Yeah,
I don't know
see,
if you guys ever played them.
I have a simulation management as well. I have Banished, Barter Empire, Cart Life, Cook Serve Delicious, which is probably mislabeled there. No Moria, Azometra, which is a dead early access game, one that I was alluding to earlier. Has been updated in over a year now. Out of the Park Baseball 14, Papers, Please, which is probably mislabeled and I need to move. The Political Machine, Prison Architect, and Reciteer and Item Shop's Tale.
I love Reciteer. Oh my gosh. I've spent way too much time playing Reciteer.
I need to go back and play that. Steam only says I have 1 minute played, but I played quite a bit of it. I don't know why it lists that.
I bought Reciteer for myself for Christmas last year. When my in-laws were here, I played 8 hours. I think it's either 8 or 18 hours when I was online. And then our internet went out for a couple of days. And so I played it offline for forever and beat the game. Reciteer is so much fun. It's so cute.
I had a lot of fun with Banished, with a couple of mods.
Yeah, Banished, it has sort of the Bethesda thing where the base game is kind of shallow once you break it down, but mods really save it.
Yeah, the Colonial Charter mod quadruples the number of buildings and production chains.
Yeah, the Colonial Charter is basically what I wanted out of that game. And also the Kingdom Management games that I'll play, which I'm waiting probably a couple weeks before I dive back into because of the update. Dwarf Fortress.
Dwarf Fortress.
Dun dun dun.
I'm gonna jump into that at some point in the near future. We've talked about it several times, and it's been on my watch list for a while. And I'm just screw it.
If you want,
I'm gonna do it.
If you want, I'll give you the playlist. It's for an older version now, but it's probably about 2 or 3 hours worth of videos of just tutorials of how to do the very basic stuff.
Okay.
Very handy.
Which doesn't include nearly anything, or nearly everything, I should say. There's it's one of those games that is just so deep, but it's been developed for years.
I want the space version of Banished. I don't know if it's made by the same company or whatever. I can't think of the name for the life of me right now. But there's a game.
Space?
No, not
Or
Space
Planet
Base.
Base? or No, it was Planet Base.
I think it's Planet Base, yeah. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it suffers from the same thing, that the early game is quite amazing, but once you start diving a bit deeper, it loses its charm a bit.
Yeah, I have played a bunch of Planet Base, and there's only maybe 3 resource chains, which in total is about 6 different buildings. So you start off the colony, you've only got enough resources to build the small version of all of those. And then about an hour in, you've got the resources to build the large version of everything. And then you've practically finished the game. The only gameplay for that is to build 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 10th copies of everything to get your population up.
I see. That makes me kind
So
of
there's
sad.
there's no challenge in it. It's a good game. The mechanics work, but there's just no variety yet.
Right. That makes sense. Makes me sad, but it makes sense.
So I'd say definitely keep that on the wish list and see what they do with it.
Yeah, I found a lot of the management style games that just they've kind of fallen short.
Did you guys ever play the old Settlers games?
Yeah, the ones that are
bit,
now called Anno.
I played probably Settlers 4 or 5. I'm not sure which one it was. I know one of the later ones where they went to always on DRM. I cannot support always on DRM, so I just skipped on it.
Yeah, well, they kind of did a CNC4 and changed the fundamental gameplay a fair bit in the later couple. But they were good for, I suppose the management aspect of balancing, 30 or 40 different resource chains. And I'm yet to find a modern game that scratches that itch. Banished probably came the closest. But there was something about that cartoony style and very complex gameplay that I very much enjoyed.
Well, I had a problem with Banished that my townspeople were very susceptible to going on death marches for no reason, I might add. I don't know, maybe a tree fell over in the corner of the map that I just couldn't figure out. But one winter I realized that I was seeing people dying a lot, and I couldn't figure out why. So I eventually found this just train of people heading off to a corner of the map that I hadn't even touched. And along the way, they were getting too cold, and by the time they started to come back to civilization, it was too late, and they starved to death.
Yep. I think they fixed that. That got a specific mention in one of the patch notes. But you did have to be a bit careful saying, go collect iron from somewhere very close only.
Well, the thing is, I never even touched that corner of the map. It was the settlement I started was towards the upper part of the map. And all of a sudden, it was like just watching a lot of ants head down to this corner. Yeah, it was weird. The thing is that type of game, I didn't have a backup save. I can't remember if you can do backup saves or do staggered saves. So because the game screwed me over, I was out several hours of gameplay because of it.
Yep, that always sucks.
Which I don't mind the game, just suddenly being, okay, you lose, because that's part of the charm of Dwarf Fortress. But the thing is that it's not just the game ending because of a bug like that.
Yeah, and that's probably the sign of a good game, whether or not you're willing to go back and redo stuff.
Yeah, there's a very real difference between your guys just going on a random death march for no discernible reason and having a bronze colossus that is not invulnerable attacking your fortress.
Yep.
I'm out of the loop on both of these discussions, having never played either of these games.
Well, I suppose either way, they're game-ending, unsurmountable challenges that you had no direct control over as a player.
Well, you still have a option with the Bronze Colossus. If you've built your defenses properly, you can just button up and let her just sit outside of your fortress, and you suddenly become a very closed-off society.
Just chilling in my tunnels.
So you hide. Do they go
Yeah.
away?
Possibly eventually.
Possibly eventually. That's what I like to hear.
Or, they could, an elvish caravan could come on the map, the Colossus makes a beeline for it, and they run off, and it just chases them off the map, which has happened to me. I've had to Well, it wasn't with the Colossus. It was at the rather nasty dragon. He burnt down the forest outside. The elves showed up because they were mad at me because all the trees died because, elves are very in love with trees.
They're hippies, you can say it.
Well, they're tree-hugging hippies.
The worst kind of hippies.
No, it's even worse than that. They're hypocritical tree-hugging hippies.
So they cut down trees?
No, they sell you wood, and if you try to sell it back to them, they get pissed and leave.
What jerks?
Yeah, there's a reason why Dwarf Fortress players absolutely hate elves. And that's why.
Maybe that's why dwarves and elves don't like each other.
Damn pointy ears. Anyway. This is one of those, game moments that kind of made me fall in love with the game was, Dragon shows up. I batten down the hatches and hide in my fortress for a while because I don't have the army to deal with it. It decides to burn down the forest. This pisses off the elves. The elves launch an attack on me because they think I'm burning down the forest. The dragon sees the elves. Decides to have a barbecue. It eats the elves. Has enough, and basically wanders off the map.
Great success.
Sounds like a good ending of that.
Yeah, I guess it gave up on having dwarfs, so and decided to have elf instead.
So do we want to wrap up our last half hour by playing what's more popular than Evolve?
Simple everything.
Just go to the Steam Spy, the top charts. Let's see what's in the top of the charts this week.
Did you guys ever play Natural Selection?
I haven't, but I've never played it. Well, the second one, I should say.
Yeah, so the first one was a Half-Life mod, and the second one is a standalone game. That game deserves to be so much more popular than it is. It is such fun.
I really like Natural Selection too. I've never played the first one, but I have played the second one.
Yeah, the gameplay is the same. Like, you still, have a commander as the Marines and run around and build stuff. It's just better in every way.
Okay, I got the Steam stats up and running now.
Alright. What do we got for the week? Let's go down the top 10.
Well, the top 10 are pretty static, actually. Well, actually, there's one on here that I don't remember being here last week, so...
Okay.
It's, number 1 is Dota 2, then Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Fallout 4, Team Fortress 2, Sid Meier's Civilization 5, then Warframe.
Ooh. The new update must have pushed people online.
Yeah, really. Ark Survival Evolved, which I don't recall being up that high.
It was on the list, but I don't think it was in the top 10 last week.
Then Skyrim and Gary's Mod rounding out the top 10 with the booby prize, number 11 going to Grand Theft Auto 5.
Grand Theft Auto 5, I'm pretty sure was in the top 10 last week. I think it was number 10.
Yeah, and Rocket League is actually doing really well still. That's a game that really surprised me. I thought it would be a game that would get a few plays, but then fall off the charts fairly quickly. But the developers have really knocked it out of the park.
I still have not played Rocket League. Again, it's another game that's on my list, but when it came out, I didn't have people to play multiplayer games with, and I hate playing with random people if I can avoid it.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
and
like
games
playing
like
with me,
that.
and I'm pretty random.
Not exactly what I meant. But good joke.
I'm also quite surprised to see Terraria only a couple down from that. Like top 15.
Terraria is also another one of those weird games that I got it for like $2 or $3, and they've just done so much with that game.
Yep, that is very fun with friends.
Not a big fan of Terraria. It's not a bad game. It's just, it's not my jam. The thing that
Yeah, fair call.
the thing that has me off of it is that it's a 2D side-scrolling thing, and that's just there's not enough else there for me to make up for that fact because I don't like that style of game. You know, I mentioned that earlier. I'm not a big fan of 2D side-scrollers.
Yep. So the building mechanics aren't enough to keep your interest.
No, they don't do it for me. I mean, you know, it's not a bad game. I didn't have any problems with it outside of that. It just wasn't for me.
Well, fair enough. Other games that would be very good fun with a group of people. Don't Starve Together. If either of you guys have played Don't Starve, that is damn good fun.
I've played a little bit of it. I think I always give up at the place where I'm sure I'm about to lose, so I don't get the experience to unlock the more advanced characters.
Yep. Oh, it's pretty easy to lose. Especially in like your first couple of weeks game time.
Never played Don't Starve. It just, again, it was a game that passed me by.
Yep.
Yeah, there's actually
I'd say
a
that
few
one's
on here
worth
that's
wish
rather
listing.
surprising at the towards the bottom of the top 90 some or 100, whatever this is. Unfortunately, Steam Stats doesn't number them.
Right? So, what are they?
Well, let's see. At the very bottom of my list is Marvel Heroes 2015, which is really turned around after some post-launch patching, from what it seems.
We talked about that last week. I think when we were doing what's more popular than Evolve, that was one of the games that was more popular than Evolve. Because I played it when it was new and utter garbage. I did not like that game at all.
And fair enough. Man, Neverwinter's still in the top 100.
Neverwinter's
Farming
a good
Simulator 15.
game. Yes.
Yeah, Portal 2 still there.
Neverwinter's a really good MMO. Aside from the fact that it has way too many currencies.
Yeah, I second that.
Star Trek Online's on the top list.
Star Trek Online is great. I was one of the people that liked it when it launched because just playing a Star Trek game and flying my ship around and role-playing was good enough for me, but they've really made a lot of improvements. And, I mean, making it free-to-play didn't hurt either. Is EVE Online
Yes, true.
in the top 100 or whatever the list is?
I don't think so.
No, I don't see it here. But then again, the established player base probably won't be playing through Steam.
Yeah, I just was curious. I know that, I mean, EVE's a pretty big game, but I wasn't sure how where the player base split is.
Does EVE really bring in new players, though? That's the thing.
I mean, they must. I mean, even with their current player base, they couldn't survive on that alone, I don't think. Well, no, it is subscription-based. Never mind.
Yeah, well, I think the Steam sales often bring in a bunch. You know, where you can buy 2 months of game time or whatever for $5.
Get one of their starter packs. Oh, I'm itching to play EVE some more. It's a game that actually runs really well on my laptop. I might be playing EVE when I'm gone at Christmas time to visit the in-laws.
And then we'll never see you again.
Nah,
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd probably start over at this point. I'd buy in on one of the Steam starter packs, just because it's been so long since I've played. I might have went too far. I don't think I can suicide burn and stop. Yeah, I'm going to crash into the surface of the mine. Good thing I have 5 for safety.
Well, it looks like Jebediah is having still a bunch of fun.
And they'll have a good sale around that time as well, so.
But let's see. Picking out some games that are interesting. Have you ever looked at Dirty Bomb?
Yeah, I think I've got Dirty Bomb downloaded and I've been meaning to play it for a little while now. It's free to play, right?
Yeah, it's not bad. It requires a lot of grinding in order to unlock characters, unfortunately, but it's not terrible.
Yeah, but I mean, as we talked about in free to play, I'm okay with that since I didn't have to pay for the game in the first place. I'm not like some grumpy people on our friends list.
Nice.
What else is on the charts this week?
Well, there's this little game called Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah, that's sitting at about 50th.
Yeah, it's pretty safe. There's a lot of games around the about 3,000 peak players. Which Kerbal Space Program, for having that many players, is really odd, you know? It's just not a game that you would think would have 3,000 some players a day. It seems like such a niche title. But then again, you have things like Euro Truck
3,000.
Simulator.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
true.
That's this is actually listed right now as current player, so it has 3,000 some players right now.
Hey, I'm one of those players.
Yeah, a 19,000 peak, which is pretty good. Another like fun under the radar game that gets the official Your Uncle nod of approval, Original War, from back in the day, made by Virgin Interactive when they were still a company.
I don't think I've ever heard of that game. Original War?
Yeah, if you were an old RTS fan, put that on your wish list right now and get it when it goes on sale.
I am an old RTS fan. I love me some old Command & Conquer, among others. Old Warcraft.
Yeah. I would love a new Warcraft RTS.
I think they'll not make another Warcraft until World of Warcraft is done.
I think they'll make.
Unfortunately.
I think they'll make a new Warcraft. Oops, I'm gonna crash. Around the time of the movie release, they'll make a new Warcraft and then market it with the movie.
The problem with a new Warcraft also is going to be, how are they going to resolve the story? Are they going to go an alternate world like one of the newest expansion? I'm not sure which. Or are they going to do like a prequel where Warcraft 4 takes place before Warcraft 3 or 2 or 1? Or are they basically going to retcon the entire thing and say everything in World of Warcraft didn't happen?
I'd say that they will retcon it, which is going to make a lot of people mad, but I think that that's what they would do if they kept trying to go
It makes
with
the most
Warcraft
sense.
story. I mean, they've retconned the World of Warcraft story before. Warlords of Draenor is a huge retcon. Because it's like, oh, we're going to go back in time and change all this stuff, so it didn't happen.
Yeah, didn't Warlords of Draenor have a massive drop in players?
Yeah, WoW's down to around 5 million active subs.
They've actually said that they are going to stop reporting their subs.
Yeah. Which
Yeah,
I
they've
mean,
been on a
bode
steady
well.
decline for years, though.
yeah, there's always a bump every time a new expansion comes out, but then it always drops back off.
Yeah, and this new one, I can't even think of the name of it. It's like the design document was in an emergency break in case of low subscribers on the wall of their office.
Yeah.
Because it has like everything that they want. Everyone's wanted since like the first expansion. You know, playable demon hunters. Basically going back to the old Burning Crusade expansion.
Yep. Have either of you played World of Warcraft before?
I played World
Very
of Warcraft
briefly.
for 5 years.
Okay, yeah. What
I
did you-
deliberately dodged it.
I played for years and years when it came out. I played for all the way up to Wrath of the Lich King, like right up until that expansion came out. I didn't get the expansion. I stopped playing. and then I got back into it a couple of years ago with Cataclysm, and then I play off
Yep.
and on.
Unfortunately, you missed one of the best raids there was for World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
I was a big raider. I played from Burning Crusade. I actually started with Burning Crusade, and I was able to do most of the raids in it, except for the Illidan raid and Sunwell.
Everyone tells me that Lich King was like the last really, really good expansion, and I was at a point in my life where I was like, okay, I've got to stop. I just have to stop until I can get this under control.
Yeah, the Lich King had the best and the worst raiding experiences. Back to back, I might add, that I played.
Come on, Jeb, it's not that hard. Just grab. There we go. Board.
Jeb's having too much fun with his backpack. I absolutely love raiding Ulduar. It had something like 14 or 15 bosses in it. It was just an absolutely massive a massive raid. And all the bosses were pretty different from one another.
Yeah, that is quite the grind fest.
I mean, Ulduar was a dungeon that you raided multiple times a week to be able to play everything. But it was fun. And they also had hard mode for each boss, so you'd go in, and the big example that I can remember is Memoron. To activate hard mode, there was this giant red button that you pressed before the fight started.
That's just an open invitation for trolling right there.
No. It literally, whenever you started it, by pressing the button, he literally says, "Did you just press the self-destruct button?" It had a completely different voice line for it. And it had additional hazards. For example, the entire place was basically coming apart because of the self-destruct, so you'd have fires all over the place that you'd have to watch out for, and the place would be shaking every so often. It was quite the experience.
I did some raiding, but I was not a huge raider. I did quite a bit of dungeon stuff, and mostly I would just like unsurprisingly, I was just a miner for my guild. I'd go collect resources.
You don't say.
Yeah, like that's what I did. It was like I was one of those guys. It's like, oh, I'll go fill up the guild bank. Just give me some gold, please.
See, I enjoyed fishing in that game.
Oh, I did too. I would like take off my armor and like put on.
Oh my.
And put on like fishing waders.
That's a
or,
very
like,
different kind of fishing.
Well, that's a weird flight path.
Yep, looks like I'm gonna get a little bit of an assist from the mun. I always go the wrong way whenever I'm taking off from the mun. I don't know why, and I wind up flinging myself out instead of going back in. But it's like, well, I don't have enough spare fuel to correct it once I'm already in progress, so I'm just gonna have to go out and make a maneuver.
Take the scenic route.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of angered a few people because do you remember the Booty Bay fishing competition?
No, I don't remember that.
It was this thing. It was a weekly event that happened in Strigglethorn Forest. It was a NPC ran event where if you win, you got the best fishing pole available in the game, and I think it's still the best stat-wise. And a few other toys to choose from.
Right.
I won it my first time trying it. Then I went back and won it the second week in a row.
Nice.
I got called so many bad things whenever I went it the second time because I wanted the trinket that also offered because it turned you into a fish.
You can probably sell that for like millions of gold now, unless it's soulbound.
It's soulbound, but you probably sell the account.
Yeah, you could do that.
But the thing is that one of the raids in Burning Crusade, you had to go through this underwater tunnel to get to it. So before the raid started, I would just sit there in my fish form, and it wouldn't dispel it as long as I had that trinket on. It was a constant thing unless I entered combat and got hit. But I would just sit there. It gave me water breathing, so I would just AFK there. And there were so many people that ran up towards me and tried to attack me because they thought I was some sort of weird named mob. So it was totally worth it.
What was your name
Nice.
in WoW? Was it Captain Rage?
Borislav.
What?
I was a Drana shaman, so I went with a Russian name.
Nice, I think.
Because of the accent. Did you ever hear a Drana speak?
Yeah. I just, like, that's just interesting. Like, I never thought about that before.
Yeah, and there was also a fairly well-known gnome, a mage on my server that was named Boris. So everybody thought I was an alt of him for some reason, and I had no idea who he was until I was max level.
Boris. Dark comrade. Alright, we're coming in way too hot, so we're gonna burn. Try and slow down.
But I just thought it was amusing to, have this Russian name when obviously the space goats were not Russian, but they had the accent.
Yeah. Wait, did you say space goats?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people called them.
Okay.
Because
I've
of the
never heard
horse.
anybody say that before. I mean, it makes sense, but I've never heard anyone say that before.
Don't get me wrong, I like my Drana, but yeah, they were space goats.
Oh, man. Good thing I F9 for some.
Goodbye, Jeb.
Yeah. Command pods can't survive ridiculous re-entry angles anymore.
Not without a heat shield.
Nope. Let's see, which one?
The stream broke just as it exploded.
Oh, that's wrong. I need to go this way. No, I don't.
Yeah,
That's
your
wrong.
uncle. I'm not seeing this on sale. I'm seeing it, but I'm not seeing it as a sale item.
Nah, wish listed up.
Ah,
If
all
it
right.
ever comes on sale, I endorse this purchase.
Then I toss out Startopia.
Startopia. Is that the
So that
weird
sounds
little
very familiar.
space? Like you're in control of a space station and you have
Yep.
to. I love that game. I've got Startopia. I bought Startopia like years and years and years ago on CD. And then I bought it on Steam when it came up last year, maybe? Like, I paid full price for it. Wasn't even on a sale. Although, granted, full price was only like, I don't know, 10, 15 bucks. So much fun.
Yeah, it was here for $6.99 now. Yep, so in Original War, because you're sent back in time, people are your most limited resource.
Uh-huh.
So it's a like proper old school RTS, but you've got to try and keep all your dudes alive. And they add like different stances, so standing, crouching, or crawling for better visibility and accuracy. And kind of like that element to combat as well. And you still like research vehicles and cool tech.
How far back do you go in time?
Like way back. There are 8 men around that you can send your scientists out to kind of tame and then get them to do manual labor.
Oh, so like we're back in the prehistoric
Yeah,
days.
there's no people, there's no infrastructure, it's just jungle.
What is what's the point of the game, like the story, or as spoiler free as possible?
So the overarching thing is they find a time machine and it's powered by what do they call it? Cyberite from Siberia, some rare resource.
What, not
that is only
plutonium?
found in not
Are you saying the
unobtainium.
sucker's Are you saying the sucker's nuclear?
Well, it glows a pretty green color.
Poor your
But
uncle.
then it's-
I went right over his head.
I missed it. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get that one and thought I'd just plow on regardless.
Yep, that's a good idea. Just keep going.
But then it's like the Americans and the Russians both send teams back in time to try and secure the only deposits of this stuff in the past. So all of your resources come from like your allies in the future sending them back in time. And you get on the mini-map like a little blip that something has arrived. And then you've got to kind of race the AI to get there. It could be resources to build stuff with. It could be a soldier for you. It could be a soldier for the enemy. On top of like base building and research and all the rest of the RTS elements.
Interesting.
It's very good fun.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Is it on Steam, or do I need to get it from like GOG?
No, it's on Steam.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out. That sounds like my jam. Like, how old of an RTS is it? Like,
2001.
oh, that's not that old. When you were saying old RTS, I'm thinking like mid '90s stuff.
No, it's not quite that old. I'd put it like right slap bang in the middle of the heyday of quality RTS. Like where they still built storyline and characters into them.
Before they started dropping off.
Yep.
All right, what do you
Before
think?
things went downhill.
What do you think was the downfall of RTS?
Just having too many of them.
Okay.
Saturation.
Let me rephrase that question a little bit. Like, there is a marked, like, do you feel like there's a marked drop in quality in RTS? Like, what game is the one that did that to the genre?
No,
CNC4.
I wouldn't say that there's a marked, one that was like the one that broke the camel's back. I would just say that there was just so many coming out at one point that unless you were a game reviewer, you're not going to be able to play all of them. So you put several on the back burner, and they weren't making money. So it becomes a chicken and egg problem where the games aren't making enough money to warrant making another RTS. So the genre kind of just falls apart.
But I think
it is kind of a niche genre.
It is, and I think lots of at least a couple of the big series I played, the most recent, say, couple of games, say, 7 or 8 years worth, have become noticeably less complex. Or if I'm going to be, developer speak, they've been more approachable and more casual.
So StarCraft.
Yes, I would say the barrier to entry to StarCraft has gone way down. Like, if you don't get into competitive multiplayer, anyone can play StarCraft through the campaign.
Yep.
But like the Settlers The Settlers got a lot less complex. The Command and Conquer games all have gotten a lot less complex. Now, what else did we used to play?
Dune. Did you ever play the old Dune RTS?
I love the old Dune RTS.
Me too. What about there were several Star Wars RTS games.
That's true. The one that was built on the Age of Empires 2 engine.
Was that Galactic Battlegrounds?
Maybe.
I could be wrong.
That was such good fun.
That's just what popped into my head. And yes, that was a really good Star Wars, or a really good RTS. I mean, really, Age of Empires is a great RTS. I played that in undergrad. You know, we'd all get together for little LAN parties in the dorm room.
Yeah, we did that as well.
And that was one of the games that we always played. It was like we'd break out the Xboxes and play Halo, and then we'd break out our PCs and play Age of Empires.
I still play Halo 1 on PC every now and again at LANs.
You know, I've never played Halo on PC.
Oh, it is so good. The bouncy vehicle physics are just the most hilarious multiplayer thing ever. You just slam two warthogs into each other and fly up in the air.
Well, the PC version had a lot better stuff than the Xbox version, because it had the rocket warthog, and I think the flamethrower warthog. And then of course
definitely
mods.
The rockets.
The mod
Never played it with mods.
The mod I always wanted to play was the bot mod, so that you can play multiplayer matches with bots. And they would be, you know, the different Covenant troops, and then the different versions of the UNSC Marines.
Yep.
But they all played like, you know, they were Master Chiefs.
Yeah, that's handy. Yep, like the 406 multiplayer on the smaller maps were just fun times.
Did you ever play Halo Wars? It's a console game, but so I doubt Ray just played it, but
No, I never played it.
No, well, you heard what I would think about trying to play an RTS with a controller.
yeah, they actually did a very good job with it. As far as playing an RTS with a controller goes, I mean, it would have been better with keyboard and mouse for sure, but the way that they designed it, it worked pretty well. And I mean, it was Halo. Although I think I would have liked that if it had been, for example, Command and Conquer or something like that. Actually, it wasn't a very particularly balanced game now that I think about it. The best way to play the game was to play, like each of the leader characters had like bonuses for, you know, certain troopers and different things. And there was one guy who got ODSTs, which are the guys that drop out of space in little pods. And infantry units, you could build the most infantry units. So you pick him, get the ODSTs early in the game, and then just spam drop them on an opponent's base. It's like, you win. Eventually, I'll make it back to the planet. I could get out and push,
One
but
day.
I don't want to.
Or are you even far enough of the tech tree to get out and push?
Oh, this is just a science mode game.
Ah.
Us having discussions makes it very hard for me to concentrate on career funds and strategies and contracts.
Well, excuse me.
You're excused, I guess. Did you fart
All right,
or something?
Okay, gonna go watch Bob Ross now.
This is kind of like Bob Ross. It's very soothing to go around the planet over and over again.
A happy little orbit. Remember, there's no mistakes, just happy little accidents.
Did you see
experience?
Someone had done like the statistics of Bob Ross's things? It was like,
yeah, I saw that
probability that Bob Ross's painting will have a happy little tree, like 98%.
Yeah, I want to know.
Probability
I
that
want to
if
see
there's
the
one
episodes
happy
where
little tree, there'll be at least two more.
I want to see the episodes where he didn't make a happy little tree. What was he painting?
And apparently, like, only 0.2% of his paintings have people in them as well.
I didn't realize he painted people at all.
I've never seen a Bob Ross painting with people in it.
Exactly. I'm guessing there's one somewhere.
Now I'm looking for it. This is what my life has come down to.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. Looking at Bob Ross paintings. Sounds like a pretty decent life to me, just looking at paintings all day.
Let's see. Painting some Bob Ross. Percentage containing each element. At least one tree, 91%. At least two trees, 85%.
Nice.
At least one mountain, 39%. Man-made structure, 22%. I'm just skipping over a lot of these. In a winter setting, 18%. If it has a palm tree, it's a very rare one at 2%. Same with flowers, actually.
I would have said flowers were really high.
Well,
He
there's probably
always sticks bushes in, but I don't know about flowers on them.
Maybe that's just my imagination. Like he puts trees and bushes and stuff, and I'm going, oh yeah, there's flowers there.
I found it. There's only one painting that's known of that has a person in it. It's a silhouette against a guy leaning against a tree with a campfire.
Sounds about right.
Actually, a very beautiful painting. Very simplistic, of course, but then that's kind of Bob Ross's thing.
Yeah, knock up a banging mountains, trees, lake background scene in 10 minutes.
Yeah, then get GG on Twitch.
GG, guys. GG. Wouldn't it be GP, good painting?
Have you ever watched the Twitch streams of Bob Ross?
Yeah.
It's just hilarious, the chat on that.
Helps me relax after a rough day.
The first time
after just about anything.
Every time he cleans the brush, R.I.P. Devil.
I used to watch Bob Ross when I was a kid. I'd go spend the night at my grandmother's house, and she would have him on either Bob Ross or QVC all the time.
And sometimes Bob Ross would be on QVC.
Sometimes, yeah. QVC was never on Bob Ross, though. I'm not sure how a company would get on top of a person, but they might get figured out. They can sell anything to old people.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes my grandmother, a couple of times she said this to me. She's been like, why do you buy things on the internet like that you don't need? And I'm like, you watch QVC all day. You can't say anything to me about it. Of course, she's an old person, so she does anyways, but...
Yeah, I wonder if whenever the cable's out, people just call QVC and it's like, okay, what's on right now?
No.
Okay, give me
How
two
do
of
I
those.
change the channel?
Not people, old people. I don't know anyone who's not an old person that watches QVC. Do you have QVC in Australia, Uncle? Or something similar?
Nope.
Do you know what we're
Is that
talking
the
about?
home shopping network of some sort?
Yeah. It's a televised home shopping network.
Yeah, where they always sell things at a very, very high rate.
Yep, the equivalent of Chuck Norris selling steak knives.
Yep, or exercise equipment.
Yep. Yeah, so I think some of our, lots of our channels now have like a second or third offshoot, and a couple of those are largely dedicated to infomercials.
But infomercials are a bit different. Actually, they're funny. Have you ever gone to the subreddit Where did the soda go?
No.
It's
No.
it's basically a subreddit devoted to, well, odd moments in infomercials and commercials.
Oh, I've seen lots of gifs like that. Like, yeah, someone touches like the kitchen cupboard and then the whole kitchen explodes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Everything from the shake weight infomercial.
I need to go back and watch the South Park episode with the shake weight.
The slap chop.
I love that Valve eventually started making fun of the slap chop because the scout ended up looking a lot like that guy. Or did you ever hear about that?
No. I've
I
never.
did not.
Yeah, a lot of the scouts' later voice lines were making fun of those commercials.
That's awesome.
All right. I think we're gonna make it into orbit land this time.
Okay, Nigel, you're old.
Old man Nigel. I can't believe you stuck with us this long. Glad to have you here, Nigel. By the way, we didn't ask you, do you listen to the Kerbal podcast, or did you just happen to stumble upon me randomly? It's probably a good question to ask, because as soon as we land, it's time to wrap up.
I think we should ask Biff if he watches QVC.
Oh, that's a good one. I'll send a tweet to him, or you can, whatever.
Don't even ask if he watches it. Just what is your favorite product? What is your best purchase from?
From QVC. How old are you, Nigel? Because I'm an old man and I'm only 25. I'm an old man who likes to sit around in his stretchy waist pajama pants and complain about things all the time.
And try to get a bunch of Steam trading cards through various acts.
Absolutely. Aw, well, thanks for sticking with us, Nigel. I hope you've enjoyed the stream.
I guess now's the time that I put Kerbalcast's Libsyn in the chat. Actually the only show in town for Kerbal podcasting until Booster Space State comes back.
Hey, what about us?
Well,
Yeah,
we're not
we are
technically
actually
a
a show in
podcast.
town.
That's true. Technically, we're not a podcast. We're something else. We're
Regular
we're a
contributors
show.
to the comp. Yeah, you guys are a thing.
We're a thing. We're Team Anger Management. We're gonna be a podcast.
Spoilers.
Oh. Oh. Don't tell anyone, Nigel.
Probably what? January is when we'll start looking at that, since December is traveling.
Yeah,
and whatnot.
maybe talk about it a bit more beforehand.
Plan it out.
I'm looking at the this show episode or the show title for the newest Kerbalcast. I suck at first-person shooters. I have a feeling there's going to be an interesting story.
Oh, Biff was playing the crap out of Battlefront before Thanksgiving. It's probably going to be him saying how bad he is. Nigel, a
entirely
podcast is where
possible.
we all get high. We all smoke a whole bunch of weed and then do a podcast. That's a podcast.
Hey, man. Welcome to the 420 podcast. I forget.
Today's discussion: best brownie recipes.
You know, like the
And
color blue, man? It's like...
And then
totally
we're gonna review the Dorito Taco Bell.
Hey, don't you make fun
thing.
of Doritos Locos Tacos. All right, buddy? I love those.
Yeah, but it's such a stoner food.
So, it's delicious. Stoners have good taste in food. I had a bunch of friends who were stoners in high
Particularly,
school.
I think everyone had a bunch of friends who were stoners in high school.
Yeah, that's probably a fair
I think every
assessment.
school had that group.
Watch out for the Nintendos. They'll shut down your YouTube channel.
It's a very, very shallow reentry. We're just barely slowing down. We've been in the atmosphere for forever at this point.
The craft's going to explode from all the heating, isn't it?
I mean, I want to decouple the engine, but it's basically my heat shield right now.
Jeb, get on and push.
Yep, I think you need that engine there. And no heating bars yet, so looking good. Or I'm just a long way behind.
No, we're still looking good. I mean, this is pretty much a perfect shallow reentry. My descending node is on the, or not descending node, my retrograde marker is on the horizon. So it doesn't get much shallower than this, but still, I'm a bit worried. Probably I'll drop it if I start to lose control, and just hope that the pod can survive, and use the shape to keep me oriented properly.
Yeah, I forget where the center of mass is on just the command pod.
I mean, you can write it down perfectly with SAS off.
Yeah, it's aerodynamically stable to have a heat shield on there.
Is it stable without the heat shield?
Yeah, it's
Well,
stable
without it as well, but it's built to be able to do with or without.
Yep, and I forget which mod it was. Maybe Deadly Reentry, but it offset the center of mass so you could actually do the rotate to control your angle of attack. A la Sawyer's style.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think that was Deadly Reentry, because I used Deadly Reentry for forever.
One of the mods I used to play with did.
Nigel, I think you're taking the old man joke a bit too far there. Gee Willikers. Good laugh though. I think this is gonna be the longest stream ever. It's almost 11:20.
Yep. I should probably bail pretty soon.
Oh, here we go. Heating up.
Well, you may want to wait till after all the fire outside first. Jeb is starting to get bored.
Do.
I'm just
What
looking
are we?
at
Less than 1G.
Yeah, I actually have an overheat bar now.
Yeah.
That's not good. It looks like it's climbing fairly quickly.
Yep. I'm also starting to lose control. Oh. Almost lost it there, but I kept it. Oh.
Stay on target.
Alright, it's time. Gotta drop it. I don't have a choice. I'm gonna flip out and then I'll lose my parachute. It won't matter. Oh, but we're good.
Yep.
We're fine. We're fine.
Well, Nigel, you're welcome to try to take me behind the woodshed. But not without a drink first.
Oh, you're gonna have to fight me for that too. I always take him behind the woodshed.
That's J. Arthur's favourite place to get trading cards.
Sure, you could call them trading cards.
Yeah, Jared likes to earn Steam trading cards the hard way.
Oh, that's... yeah, I guess you could say that's a hard way. Wink.
I can't believe you timed this re-entry for nighttime. That's just rude.
I don't think there's much timing involved in this re-entry.
There wasn't really any timing, yeah. It all started because I launched the wrong direction from the mine. Because I have a problem.
Old wrong way, Jared.
Well, you could say it was wrong, or you could say that I was challenging science's expectations of me.
You're just proving your skill as a pilot.
No, let's go
I
with
can
wrong.
return retrograde.
That's an okay amount of science for all of the work that I put in. I would have liked
You
more.
didn't even get out for a sample or an EVA report?
I've already taken samples and EVA reports from all over the place around Kerbin. I landed in the grasslands. Let's take some flight control and some space exploration.
Well, you can tell we've been going too long if Jim shows up.
Yep. Jim always shows up right as we're about to leave. Which Rage, that is your cue.
No, I don't think I'm going to take a cue this time. He always causes way too much trouble. Unless you just punch him in the face, then he never shows up in the series again.
Your jokes are so bad. I love them.
Hey, Cisco had it right. Punch Q in the face, he doesn't show up again.
I'd punch Q in the face if I saw him.
But that's the end of Monday Night Kerbalcast for this week, eventually. We're only, 22 minutes overdue?
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah, definitely never going to make the official KSP TV with that timing, huh?
Nope. We can improve for them, though.
But that's part of the charm, is just being terrible, isn't it?
Who said I was terrible?
I mean, just look at Dr. Turkey.
I'm just late. I'm not terrible.
Okay, well, maybe terrible's the wrong word. Distracted. That's the right word.
That is a perfect word for what I am.
Squirrel. But that does wrap us up for this week. As always, we've been Team Anger Management with myself, Caffeine Rage, and
Gaming Psychologist.
if you wish to catch more of both of our content, you can find me on YouTube at Gaming with Caffeine Rage or on Twitter at gaming_with_CR, which will be changing before too long. And Jared can be found at
On YouTube at Gaming Psychologist and on Twitch at JMA4707. And obviously you found my Twitch page.
Or maybe they found your YouTube page and they don't know about your Twitch page.
If you
Remember,
did find
you
me
post these on those.
That's true. If you did find me on YouTube, you can watch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/jarthur4707.
Your uncle, you have anything you wish to pimp?
I have nothing. You can find me here sometimes heckling these two.
Well, that's just because you paid the bills on the server.
It's true. You get
That's
special.
Let's
true.
be honest.
I've bought my way into the club.
Well,
Yeah, which you've actually angered a few people. I've actually gotten some messages about that. I'll have to share with those later.
Oh yeah, we can get those
Ooh.
off air.
Well, I should say a message.
Right.
But it's the same person several times, so it is technically messages.
I think they'll get over it.
And we are a spin-off of the Kerbalcast podcast, which is a now, once again, weekly podcast about Kerbal Space Program, occasionally, and usually a lot of other things.
You can find them at kerbalpodcast.libsyn.com.
Which hopefully will be a link in the description of this VOD.
I probably should start putting the podcast links in the description. I never do that, but I should.
I'm putting more on your plate, aren't I?
That's okay. It's not that big of a deal. Just copy and paste the link into the YouTube description.
And, well, until next time, see ya.
Bye.
Bye bye.